and then I will just shout to you wherever you happen to be in the world. Now, as I was saying, it is 31 degrees Celsius, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. I was sitting very comfortably against the trunk of that tambuti tree because that is where a lion would be on a day like this. And I wasn't hoping to find a lion behind that one, but I am hoping to find some lions perhaps down in the drainage line to the south of the Gowrie Dam. You are watching Safari Live, as I have said, so if you've happened to have stumbled across this stream by mistake, welcome. It's good to have you with us. Don't go anywhere. We're hopefully going to show you some wonderful things here from the iconic Kruger National Park here in the northeast corner of the world's most beautiful country, that is South Africa. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have David, sporting a very fine pair of very fashionable sunglasses. That is because it's very bright. I must confess, though, he's very, very stylish, is our David. Also his new bush hat, of course. On the other vehicle, Brent Leo Smith, all 6 feet and 3 inches of him, hanging about with all 6 feet and 4 inches of Brian Joubert. And they're gone to the south of the reserve to see if they can find what was making the monkeys cross this morning. Hopefully it was Karula. Now, the lion situation here is a little bit disturbing to me, especially as I was going through some of my photographs this morning and really enjoying the little pictures of the tiny little cubs that we've had. If you are a little unfamiliar with what's happening, the Nkuhuma pride of 5 lionesses and 8 cubs has been kind of split up in the last 2 days. We've been watching the 8 cubs for some time together, and then 2 days ago 2 of the cubs were seen drinking on their own. Very strange, because they're very small still. One of those is just 8 weeks old, and the other, well, is that correct? Yes, just 7 or 8 weeks old, and the other was an 11-week-old one drinking at the pan on their own, while the rest of the pride was probably down in this drainage area here. They have not been seen again since. Then this morning we came along here, David and I, and David spotted 3 other cubs also on their own without the adults. Tracks of the adults go all over this place, around here up towards the final control where that giraffe is standing underneath a knobthorn tree enjoying the taste of the new knobthorn leaves and their flowers. And then they went down into the drainage and back out again, and Rexon walked his the proverbial soles off his feet this morning trying to find them, and unfortunately many of the tracks have been obliterated by elephants, so we haven't seen any of those. We don't know where the adults are. It's all very interesting, and so hopefully we'll have some good news for you a little bit later on, and the entire pride will have been reunited. Right, while we go and look for that, Brent Leo Smith has found himself the first high-profile sighting of the day. Let's go and take a look.
Welcome to a hot and dusty Djuma private game reserve. We're in the grips of one of the worst droughts since the early 90s. But there are elephants abounding, so welcome. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and welcome on your own privately guided safari through Africa. Great to have you with us. This is live. Remember, questions at wildearth.tv or hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Now, I can hear elephants all around. That one's a bit far from the road, so let's go down the road, see if we can get you a better view. Hopefully, you've got some good questions about elephants to follow. Now, we are in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, for those of you who might be new, which is open to the greater Kruger National Park, an 8.5 million acre unfenced wilderness area where animals are able to move freely. And now, with a drought like this, it makes it a little bit easier for some of the animals that are able to traverse big distances, like elephants. They are able to travel from where there's a lack of water and food to an area where there is water and food. And I've just come back from a trip recently up north where there has been more rain. You can definitely see movement of animals like buffalo and elephant from the center area further to the north where there still is grass and water available. Now, it sounded like one of those elephants was right here around this little river system. Now, how I found, well, we spotted that one, but how I know the other elephants around, firstly, that's just a young one and he's right on the edge, so there's got to be more around. And secondly, I could hear them breaking branches. And on a hot, still afternoon like this, there is almost no sound birds aren't chirping, but the elephants are breaking branches, and they need to keep feeding with that massive body of theirs. Now I'm hoping that Eddie was around here somewhere, taking advantage of a few of the evergreen trees that are along some of the little dry river systems. Well, thank you to Raisa, Liz, and everyone else who says a blistering warm welcome back. It's great to be back, and of course, who else but Brian Joubert on camera with me. So the Killer Bees reunite for my first drive back, and of course there's a thumb that is on a caffeine high today, so the coffee bean thumb. Oh, I can smell a musk ball as well. There's another Ellie. There we go. So when an elephant bull gets into must, a very distinct sort of almost sickly sweet smell. Now there's the rest of the herd there. There's the big boy. I think I can see his bottom off to the right. Let's go forward. Hopefully he's a big tusker. And he is. He looks like a glorious big boy. Oh, lovely set of teeth on him as well. How's that, Brian? And just make it out through there. By no means massive, but beautiful, even ivory from what I could see. Adult bull, probably in his 40s. So there's more than likely a female in estrus in this herd, and that's who he's after. Now, elephants are quite unusual in the fact that both the male and female have to be in a heightened hormonal state. In females, known as estrus or heat. Now, males come into must, and they only mate when they are in that heightened hormonal state. Most other animals would require a female to come into that heightened hormonal state, and the males are just ready for it all the time. But Ellie's a little bit different. Now, must cycles in elephants differ throughout Africa, depending on variations in temperature, in climate, rainfall, excuse me, all those different things. And you find the biggest, strongest, most dominant bulls time their must cycles in a time where the most females are in estrus, and the smaller, less dominant bulls have to try get their mating rights in the times when there are less females in estrus. Now, when you do have quite a few must bulls around, there can be some cataclysmic encounters. Now, you can imagine two animals of over 10,000 tons battering into each other. It is almost earth-shattering. But it's quite something to behold. He seems to be showing interest in that little female who's right in front of him. Now, like we've seen with male lions, when they get a sniff of a female in estrus, they tend to stick on them. And that's what this guy will do if there is that female in estrus. He'll try stick with her, he'll try sequester her away from the rest of the herd. And often at times like this, the herds can get quite stressed. Having a big, highly hormonal male charging around is quite a stressful experience. Yes, big boy, I'm talking about you. Sounds like he's almost listening to us. So these eddies seem to be disappearing down into the Moati River. I definitely want to come try catch up with them a little bit later. But while we do that, I'm going to go have a look for the Queen of Djuma. Apparently her tracks were around this morning. So let's go look for Queen Karula. And while we do that, let's go see Steph, who's marching about. Definitely getting his exercise in this heat.
Good afternoon and hello everybody, and I am indeed marching around, although not right at this particular moment. Right now I'm sitting enjoying this beautiful afternoon at the end of our dry season in the sun and having a lot of fun here with VM, looking at some of my favorite things. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stef. We've got VM on camera today behind you, and I love small little creepy crawlies. And what we've got here is we've got a colony of cocktail ants, and they're called cocktail ants because when they run around normally, their tails cock up in the air. But I must be honest that they have to be one of the most active ant I've seen out here. Look at the speed at which they are clearing their holes. Now, every time one runs out, he's carrying a grain of sand or a stone, and he deposits it on the outside of their nesting cone and runs in and gets another one. But just have a look at how fast that is. Imagine being able to employ people that run around like this. We'd all be sitting around with no work to be done. I just find them absolutely incredible. And they change their activities through the day. Ants are also born into castes, which means that you're born into your particular role in life. And in this particular sense, the harvesters or the hunters of this particular ant colony, they change from hunting in the middle of the day to maintenance of their nests during the afternoon and the early morning. In the middle of the day, you won't find these ants doing whatever they're doing here at all. Their nests are almost completely dormant. But you will find them scurrying about, and they're carnivorous. They hunt almost anything that they can catch, overkill, or overpower and kill. They'll then bring the carcasses dismembered back here, or they will collectively drag them. So a whole bunch of ants will drag something big, or they will just carry it, if it's small enough, down into their nests, where their larvae, their babies, eat that meat. Isn't that amazing? Feeding it to their babies, and that's the next generation of ant, basically. Now, it is a hot day today, I must be honest with you. I'm sitting over here with my feet on the side of this termite mound. The termite mound is on the northern flank. I'm sitting on the northern flank of this particular termite mound, and it's the side of the termite mound that quite often gets the hottest. And that's because we're in the southern hemisphere, and we are south of the Tropic of Capricorn, and that means that for the entire year, the sun is in the northern half of the sky all the time. And you find that on the northern side of these slopes, you have different grasses and different plants growing to the southern slopes. And what's significant about this northern slope, and if I can get it up over here, I'll show you. What's significant about this northern slope is that it has a colony of grasses on it that elephant have obviously enjoyed. And the elephant has absolutely decimated this grass colony. These craters that we're having a look at right now are the remnants of elephants that are coming in here and ripping out these tussocks of grass. And I'm almost sure that if we walked to the other side of this termite mound, that you would actually be able to see a different, yes. So here we have different grass, but not absolutely isn't as harshly fed upon as the northern side. You can have a look there. And quite often, the southern sides of these termite mounds will have different plants on simply because they stay wet for longer. They don't dry out as quickly. They don't have as much sun shining on them, so they don't get as hot. You can absolutely see the fact that this side is a lot more vegetated with woody species. It has this buffalo thorn growing on it, and it has, it's got a guari growing on. That's this one right here, two in actual fact. It's even had a tree grow on it and grow to its maturity and then die on top of this termite mound. Give you an idea of how long this termite mound has actually been here for. We're looking at hundreds and hundreds of years, in my opinion. Here we've got, let's see what we can, quite often it will give us an insight into what's living in a stump like this when you have a closer look. What we've got here is we've got a millipede, what's left of a millipede at least anyway. So skeleton of a millipede, you can see there. If I put it out to the piece of grass, let me bring it up. So, if you have a careful look, they're made up of segments, there and there and there, and on every segment you've got two pairs of legs, and that's what makes this a millipede and not a centipede. Millipedes have two pairs of legs, centipedes have one pair of legs per segment. It's a very basic description of the difference between a millipede and a centipede. They of course eat very different things. This little guy here is called a detritivore. So these millipedes eat detritus, fungus and algae and decomposing plant matter, whereas a centipede is a hunter. It's a carnivorous animal. Runs around much faster than these guys do and hunts things down. So we have got what? So we've got a scorpion here. That's what would have eaten that particular millipede and caught it as it was coming through here last season. Doesn't seem to be much else. There's a bird that's been sitting here. He has tried to eat one of these guaris, but it was too green and he's just left the seed husk. That's a bird that has eaten the seed of a guari, or the fruit of a guari tree. This is the husk, and that just needs to be planted for it to actually grow. Would have been in the bird's crop. So the birds pluck off, and it would have been from this tree. Birds would have plucked off a fruit, eaten it. It then goes and sits in their crop. They've got all these fruits moving through muscular action in their crop, and then they'll hack out the seeds and they'll cough out the stone of the fruit so it doesn't have to pass through their digestive system. And that is exactly what we've seen there. Is a fruit of this tree being eaten by a bird right here. Would have flown up, picked a berry, flown down there, and then coughed it up. And that is exactly what we're having a look at there. Of a guari. Well, seed of a guari at least anyway. Alrighty, so that's me around this pretty term of mine. We're going to have a walk down to the drainage lines here at the back of Gallagher and see what else we can see. And James is not in his car at the moment.
Hello everyone. I've always wanted to climb this, and I've never done it before. But here I am, in it. And the reason I'm in it, of course, is not just for the sake of tree climbing. It's because the lion tracks went down past this tree into the drainage, and this is where the inimitable Rexon was looking for them this morning. And he came across many elephants. Now if I was brave I'd just walk up here, but I'm not brave, I'm not going to. And now I'm very satisfied. Went off that way. We'll see if in there. We did now check where the cubs were this morning. I went in a little bit on foot, but you don't want to frighten them. You don't want to frighten the little cubs by being on around them without the parents, so I just had a quick look and I didn't spend too much time fossicking around. I'm hoping what happened during these lions killed last night, they have fed, and maybe one of the females went back and fetched the cubs and has killed. Breaking up. Can you hear me now? Now you're good. Oh good. Now, this is of course a jackalberry tree. As many of you will know, Diospirus mespiliformes, along with the word Benedict Cumberbatch, a very good word in the morning to warm up the lips. And you can see also that it is half losing its leaves and half not. Now the jackalberry seems to operate completely unseasonally. So the big one, my favourite one, down by the Mulwati drainage near the southern boundary near Twin Dams, has already fruited. And it's already lost its leaves and got new leaves again. This one is now only just starting to lose its leaves, and it doesn't seem to have any fruits on it. Now, I am not sure, but I think a jackalberry tree is dioecious, which means that it has both male and female, at least it's a sort of hermaphroditic tree. So I think they all produce fruit, but I might be completely wrong, because this thing has got absolutely no fruit on it whatsoever. But it is a magnificent tree, isn't it? And my favourite sighting I had in here was just below her over there. David, I shall now descend the large Diospirus mespiliformes. As always, should I fall out and kill myself, you may have my camera. All proceeds, of course, from the sale of my photographs to date to go to a worthy cause. That cause does not include buying you news. I'm not entirely sure how I got into this position from there. Are you sure, David? Well, you know, when in doubt, of course, gravity will help you. A big hole here that I thought there might be a resident snake in, but there isn't. Okay. Really out. This tree that I'm going past, of course, is the splendid thorn, Acacia robusta. Yeah. Oh dear, my foot is stuck. Oh no, it's out. Why has Kirsten not linked away? I think I'm out. There we are. Oh, how deeply exhausting. I wanted to get some of this. I think it's a bit dry. Anyway. Any lion in the vicinity is going to be in fits of laughter. This is the wood of the splendid thorn, Acacia robusta, and it's just such a beautiful colour. And this is what the elephants are eating now, of course, as I've told you before. It's very dry and tastes of nothing.
We've got a question from Jackson.
Yes.
Who asked if you remember puncturing your lungs.
Puncturing my lungs?
Yes. You did not learn.
Jackson, I haven't...
Oh, your ribs, that was. Your ribs, do you ever learn it?
Did I puncture my ribs last time? Jackson, clearly I don't learn, no. You want to know if I ever learn? No, obviously not. I am, of course, almost 40 years old, and so the fear of losing my youth is strong within me, and therefore I must behave like a child and climb as many trees as possible. It was an excellent tree, that one. May spend a bit more time in there. Hello, Justin. You want to know how high up a tree you can climb and then jump down without hurting yourself? Justin, I'm going to really hedge my bets here on the fear that you're going to go and try to jump out of a tree from the distance that I say is safe. So in that case, about a foot, 30 centimeters, 12 inches. It really does depend, though, on A, your athleticism, and B, your ability to fall. Some people, if you're trained to fall, I'm being entirely serious here, David, will land and roll. And if you can do that correctly, you can probably jump from about 3 meters or so. That's about 10 feet. I wouldn't do that. I do not know how to fall, and I think I would probably break something. And so, without further ado, I think we should go back to some real biology. Brent Leo Smith again with some elephants.
So we've come across a little breeding herd. There's a tiny little baby. Hello, little guy. I'm not looking too well, but not too bad. Mom seems to be lactating, but not too much. So that's one of the biggest problems elephants face during a drought. The adults, particularly mothers who have just given birth to young calves or newborn calves, they will quite often battle to produce enough milk. Okay, I'm just seeing where she's going. I'm going to zoom around to the other side. But there are literally elephants everywhere this evening. And as we were going down the Moati looking for tracks of Crawly, the female leopard, there was almost zero chance of us finding any tracks because the elephants have literally walked up and down the whole river system. There were elephants above us, elephants everywhere. So what we're going to have to hope is when it gets cooler and Crawly gets on the move, maybe she will spot her, or something will spot her for us, an alarm call to give us the right place to start checking. catch up with those Ellies shortly. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at wildearth.tv if you want to ask us any questions. Now, X Ranger says the biggest question, and the question needs to be asked, who caught the most fish? It was Connor with 1. The drought was also playing a bit of havoc with the fishing, but it was really, really interesting. We were targeting 2 different species, but we'll get onto that once we've finished with the Ellies. Hello, little one. Keep up with Mom. There you can see Mom's teats. Even though she is lactating, don't seem to be producing too much milk, but that little one still looks quite happy and healthy for the moment, and hopefully Mom does manage to produce enough milk to feed him. We've got a late comer coming through. Hello, hello. Yes, little boy. Are you going to be big and tough? Or is Mom a bit far away for that behavior? No head shake today. Too hot. Must be too hot. So, keeping up with the rest of the herd. Oh, there we go. I love it when they speed up when they get down a little steep section. So it looks like that little family group has found a bit of shade where they're going to rest. Maybe continue feeding, but we don't want to put any undue stress on that Ellie with her little baby. So they're just moving through, finding spots to feed, trying to feed that massive body, make sure there's enough nutrients to produce milk and also just to keep alive. Okay, let's have one last look if we can see where they are. So it looks like they've all just stopped in some shade there. I think they're going to have a little rest, a little chat. Here we go. Oh, maybe a little bit of a play between the youngsters. But Mom and the little baby are just to the right in some deep shade. So let's leave them be. And back to the X-Ranger's question. Yes, so Connor caught his first tiger fish on fly. I'm afraid to say we would love to tell you it was a massive specimen. It was about 400 grams. Wasn't a very big one, but got a kiss and got released. And I think I lost one decent-sized tiger from lack of concentration on my behalf. But the river was very, very low during the drought, and it's also the first time we've ever fished that river, which makes it really exciting. And I can't tell you where it is because it's hashtag a secret spot. And as soon as too many people might know where it is, then too many people might go fishing there and won't be so secret. So we're going to keep its location unknown. And there were a lot of yellowfish, which is one of my favorite fish to catch, and I normally pride myself on being able to figure out what they're up to. So we could see them, we were sight fishing for them, and we could see masses of them on the sandbanks. However, I could not entice them to take a single fly, and when I say single fly, I went through about 46 different variations of flies to get them to bite, and I had no such luck. But, however, it was a very beautiful, very wild area with absolutely no people. While we were there, VM, Connor and myself were the only people there. So, and it is a really special experience to be able to sit there while I was changing flies at the one pool. A herd of buffalo came running down, so excited to have a drink, and then baboons and stuff started alarm calling and spooked them. So I think there could have been lions around. I saw a leopard while I was fishing. Well, I was fishing, then I heard monkeys alarm calling and parlo alarm calling, so I popped my fishing stuff down, went for a little walk, got a brief glimpse of a female leopard moving through the reeds. And what else? We saw lots of inyala, bushbuck, kudu, baboons, waterbuck. Only one elephant, but it is a really, really wild area, very difficult to get to. So we'd like to keep it quite wild. But I'm planning to go back sometime this year to try and unlock the mysteries of the river. Not going to say the name, I nearly did. Tasha is wondering, with the lack of food we're experiencing at the moment, will elephants eat their own dung or other elephants' dung? No, I've never seen that, Tasha. And Tasha's also wondering, will other animals eat elephants' dung? In some cases, yes, you'll find monkeys, baboons, francolin, have seen Inyala and bushbuck do it before. And generally only though when the marulas are in fruit. But I think with this desperate times, you might find some of the animals scuttling through dung to try get any nutrients they can. Now, of course, the great dung eater of all dung eaters is the little scrub hare. But they eat their own dung. Now, of course, they're not a ruminant, so to get the same sort of nutrients out of what they eat as a ruminant does, they'll eat their own dung up to about 7 times. So by the time they don't eat it anymore, it comes out really white and there's almost no starch, no sugars left in it. Unlike ruminant dung that comes out quite black. So alas, no sign of Queen Crawly, but lots of elephants have been up and down and everywhere. Have a look where James is working so we can make sure that we don't work the same areas so we can cover more ground. While we do that, I think Steph has got something to show you.
Now what we're trying heroically to show you is a tawny eagle. But more than that, I actually just want to show you its wings is actually molting. And birds this big, it's easy to see them molt their primary feathers. And they molt a primary feather at a time. And you can see that top wing, you'll notice a gap as he turns. And that's because that particular primary feather has fallen out. Well, it's okay if you saw Viam standing here with me at the moment. Here we go, we're getting it there. You should be able to see that primary feather that's fallen out there. And they will molt one primary feather at a time going down that edge of the wing until they all have changed and are new and fresh, and then they'll start again and molt all of the other primaries. Isn't that nice? Just effortlessly soaring. Now, you saw that Viam was battling there. It's because he's basically sitting with a camera like this, watching a screen, trying to get everything away from the sticks and everything. It's a heroic job, to be quite honest. But I am just flabbergasted where I'm standing at the moment. This area in summer, for those of you who watch often, Brian and I did a walk here a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now, where we found a green lynx spider. It was a bright green spider that was on some green foliage, had a bunch of hairs sticking out its legs. It was the most horrendous looking spider that we found so far. And it was thick and dense and lush in here. And even then we were in the middle of a dry year. But just have a look at what this looks like. I haven't walked in here with a backpack literally since that day. And it just, I don't know, I know we keep on saying about this drought and things, folks, but to be honest, I can't wait to see what summer does and how long it's actually going to take to repair the bush after all of this devastation. I mean, come and have a look at this poor tree has been shaken to a point. I don't quite know exactly why it was shaken like this, but have a look at this mass of sticks that has fallen from this tree, obviously in some wind and, I don't know, elephants pushing against it, perhaps rubbing themselves against it. But this mass of sticks have just fallen next to this tree. Now this is what you call moribund. This is combustible material, and this amount of dry sticks around the base of this very, very dry knobthorn is for me just one of those signs that this particular tree will become a pyre when we eventually have a bushfire through here. It doesn't look like we're going to have a bushfire through here this year, but next year, when the grass hopefully is nice and thick, if we get the type of rain that is predicted, the grass cover here will be nice and thick. This mass of twigs would have caught a bunch of blown grass seeds last year and is now acting as what we call a seed bank. And it's from these seed banks that the new crop of grasses will be formed. So underneath this mat of drying twigs, grass seeds that were blowing in the wind would be caught up in these sticks, would fall here, and because they're protected by all these thorny twigs and branches, this is where the grasses will form, spread their seeds, and so we'll seed areas like these adjacent deserts. You can see, and from these seed banks you will then start getting mats of grass. So Debbie, all the way from Vancouver, good afternoon Debbie, good morning to you and good afternoon from this side. You've asked if the heat has brought out a flush of insects. I think we're starting, Debbie. I think I'm going to stop my sort of narrative and story towards you about how dry it's getting. It couldn't get much drier than it is at the moment. I'm going to start changing it now in the next month or so into how much life starts getting injected in here. The knob thorns, if you've been watching, have all started to flower. And I saw my first tree wisteria flowering not so long ago, literally 2-3 days ago. I'm still waiting for my beloved weeping boerbean. But these trees would start to produce the nectar and would start to call in those few insects that are harbored within them to come out with this nectar. And we're going to start seeing an increase from now. With the best or the most noticeable change coming after we've had some decent rain. Good place to start looking is inside bits and pieces of elephant dung like this. You can see here that there's just nothing inside these pieces of elephant dung. It's just dry, nothing's eating it. Not even termites have gotten here just yet. And now in summer, Jackson, I'm going to answer your question in a little bit. I think James keeps on bringing this up, and so it stays perennially in everybody's minds. But let me just finish this one point, Jackson. So insects, this will be the first place that we start looking for insects, will be inside pieces of elephant dung like this. Now, because I'm playing with elephant dung, one of my favorites, Jackson has asked me, how fresh does an elephant dung need to be before you can get any water out of it? And I presume because you're going to ask me to drink it again at some point. Jackson, this is bone dry. You can just see there's just nothing in it. Hydrated, they've got enough water, they just don't have enough they don't have enough wet food to eat at the moment, and so their pieces of dung, I don't know, stay wet enough to get water from them for about 24 hours, I think. I mean, obviously decreasing exponentially, and also the time of the day. If that elephant dung was deposited in the morning and spent the whole day in the sun, it's most likely going to be drier by the time the evening comes, rather than if it was deposited late afternoon and had a whole evening to lie without the sun. So I suppose it just depends on the heat of the day and where it is. But have a look at this beautiful tree, just to finish that point about this tree, although looking dead and has this mass of sticks underneath it, will be the nursery or the seed bed for all the grass that will come out this year, hopefully with a little bit of rain. Just fantastic. Now, I do want to see, Wiem and I found a thorn here just now. And these acacia thorns, Wiem, watch out of here, these, I must be honest, these knob thorn twigs are vicious. Viem's already bleeding from these sticks here. I want to show you something, and this is something I think James is going to be quite jealous about. I'll bring it to you, don't worry. You will notice that here is a Y-shaped thorn with a leaf growing out of it. Now, both James and myself talk quite often about how acacia have a symbiotic relationship with an ant, and in this area, the slender ant, and how the tree provides a fancy home for the ant in the middle of the thorn, and how the ant then in return for this home protects the tree from animals that feed from its leaves. And today is the first time that I figured out how the thorn provides that door, that perfectly round door that is accessible to the ants. I want to see if I can break off this thorn for you, so I can show you this door. So there is the door. So in a bigger seed, the ants would chew through that little cap, that round hole, and make their homes inside the bases of these thorns. And today, I put 2 and 2 together by seeing that the tree actually grows a leaf, a very particular leaf, out of exactly where that round thing is. You can see there? And then it brushes off the leaf against the thorns in the wind, probably in a storm. And it brushes off that. I'm not going to do it to this tree because this is the only thorn that has one of these things on. But you can see it would snap off and it would leave a little indent. And that the slender ants would find and then excavate their home. I just thought that that was it's a nice find. And one that I'm going to share with James over a glass of apple juice when we get back to camp tonight. And on that note, I think it's time that we send you over to Brent, who has no doubt dying to give you an update about more things that he's been doing in the Milwaukee. We'll catch up with you in a bit.
So we've decided, with all the elephants obliterating any possibility of seeing Karula's tracks, to head east towards Cheetah Plains, see what's happening on the far east, see if those waterholes are pulling any spectacular wildlife out of the Kruger. So we're hoping there might be lots more ellies, but maybe a big herd of buffalo. And I'm not sure what's happening with the Styx Pride at the moment. I'll try and get an update for you. And also nice to just reacquaint oneself with the surrounds. We are about to go through a very steep little drainage system here. And this area is quite
Hello everybody, here we sit on Hyena Road, and Hyena Road of course is not so much famous for hyenas as it is for what is called a seepline. Now a seepline occurs between two sort of different kinds of subsoil substrates, so there's probably some rock underneath, and unsurprisingly it means that water bubbles up to the surface, and unsurprisingly there's a waterbuck here. Waterbuck are what we call an ecotone species, which means they live between the crests and the water. In theory, there would be water in the drainage line down behind us, where you sort of behind your picture, if you like. And so this waterbuck is in this seepline area where there's good grass normally, especially during the wet season, and then they'd head down to the water to drink. In this case, the nearest water would be Buffelshoek Dam, probably. But that's why it's in this area. And it's alone, and I suspect it's alone for much the same reason that scraggly little buffalo herd we saw the other day, and indeed the lonely female buffalo we saw yesterday, was alone. And I think that's because the food has now become so sparsely distributed that it's actually easier to find sufficient to eat if you're on your own or in a very small group. And that obviously brings with it a tremendous risk, because you don't have the vigilance and help of a herd. And therefore it must be fairly desperate times when you get to the stage that the disadvantages of being preyed upon because you don't have friends to help you look around are outweighed by the advantages of finding sufficient food for yourself. I think that's quite an interesting thing that we're starting to see here. Of course, it may be that the rest of the herd is just through the trees there and I'm blind, but it looks like she's on her own. She also looks like her hips are showing quite badly. Hello Janet, you're wondering about salt licks and rocks. Do we ever leave them out for the animals? Janet, it has been done. Certainly Mike Grover, who is the sort of ecological genius of the area, and I'm not being the slightest bit sarcastic when I say that, he's really is very progressive in his views. He has put 1 or 2 salt licks sometimes on quarantine clearings, and I think that has provided some help and relief for the animals. But I think he, like the rest of us, is reticent to do that, because you do need, Janet, to have a natural die-off during the dry season and during a drought season, because the grass needs to be able to recover in the absence of grazing and pressure. And it can't do that if everything survived on a salt lick. Then suddenly it rains and there's a light covering of grass and it just gets devoured by an overpopulation of animals. So Janet, that's a nice one. I think we do, I mean, Mike does put some out sometimes, but I don't think it's common, and I think it's much more just to see the effect on the local area rather than sort of to save great numbers of animals. Yeah, it's tough times, you know, and if it's not going to rain, and if it rains when Brent thinks it will, and that's sort of mid-November, then it really is going to be very tough, and some of you are going to struggle to watch the difficulties of the animals here. Anyway, so far, so good. I think everything's okay. The elephants, like I say, looking a bit ropey. Some of the buffalo starting to look a bit ropey. Everything else is doing okay. Good luck there. Let's continue. We did a little search along the eastern or the western edge of the Mulwati on the Gari Main, just after, at least Gari Cutline, just after we saw you in the tree. And then we went back to where those little cubs were last seen, or no, the second last place they were seen, where Dave and I spent a good, what was it, about 2.5 hours with them the other day. It was a lovely time we had with them. They're not there, there's no sign of them. I took a very short walk down into the riverbed, didn't find anything, didn't hear anything, so I don't know what's going on. We're going to drive down Hyena Road here. I'm more and more beginning to give credence to my own theory, obviously, that they have killed something not too far away from here, and that's why we can't find them. And in all likelihood, because of this area, there are lots of buffalo that have been coming through this ecotone, because it's the last bit of kind. There are a few green shoots around here, as you can see actually. If you, Dave, if you pan off to the right hand side here, you can see that there's a lot more grass here than there is in many other areas. So I think it's not unsurprising that the lions have been concentrating here. They've killed 2 buffalo in this block. It wouldn't surprise me if they'd killed a 3rd. Vicious lions. Anyway, we'll see. They'll turn up eventually and the mystery shall be solved. Hello, musical in Colorado. Do you think this is unwise, David? I think we'll be alright. Musical in Colorado. You're wondering, once the rains do come and the grass grows and the bushes grow, who comes in to take out the wood to avoid wildfires? No one. No one does that, musical. Wildfires, yes, they're certainly a threat here after a very good rainy season. Not the wood. The wood doesn't burn too much, only the grass burns. The grass, well, I mean, the wood will burn eventually if there's enough grass underneath it. But we just burn fire breaks around the lodges. We burn a number of fire breaks through the reserve, so that should a wildfire begin, you can fight it from, you know, you can back burn it from one of the fire breaks that you've set. Now, I don't think the strategy would work in many parts of, for example, Colorado, because I think the fires, if I'm not mistaken, they get into those coniferous trees because of the oils in the conifers, and they go along the tops of the trees, and it becomes totally impossible to fight them other than with helicopters and highly trained personnel. We don't get ridiculous fires like that here. Yes, I've experienced some pretty big ones here. But they're largely fanned on a day like this, so you'd have a big fanning northwesterly wind, hot day, and they come burning through here. And if you've got sufficient fire breaks, it's normally okay. It's very unusual that we'd lose a lodge, but almost immediately as the sun goes down, the wind drops, and the temperature drops, and the fires actually become easy to fight, which means you just set a line of beaters and water, and you can put them out. So I don't think it's anything like as bad as it gets in those trees in Colorado. I know they have them badly in California and many parts of Australia. They have the vicious fires that come through the gum trees. We don't get those sorts of fires here. And certainly in a year like this, we're not going to have anything resembling a wildfire that you couldn't blow out with a lungful like that. Stefan Winterboer is on foot, as you know, and it's very good to have him on foot, of course. So let's go and find out what small thing he has managed to find you of great interest.
Thank you, James. We have found a small thing, and it's because it's standing 50 or 60 yards away from us. There's an elephant in the shade, just like we are, flapping, it looks like a her, flapping her ears. She might actually have heard us. That's amazing, hey? You know, the wind died down at this precise second you came to us. And while we've been sitting here with the wind blowing into our faces for the last 10 or 15 minutes, she hasn't even heard us. Now, second the wind died, our voices carried across at 60 yards, like a puff of smoke, that elephant is gone. So that was a perfect example to show you how different it is. Elephants reacting to man on foot, to elephants reacting like you saw around the vehicle just now, where within a couple of yards they don't even show any notice that the cars are there. And that is just a prime example of the difference between us in a car and us on foot, was what you saw there. It's amazing. Good, have you? It's such a nice thing to show you. Why we actually stopped here and found that elephant in the first place is because up here, just about 2 yesterday, James was showing you a tiny little insect that he thought was a stingless bee. And it was only because I could see the zoom very, very close up. James couldn't because it was quite far away from him. That I realized that it was actually a beetle. And it was a beetle called a shot hole borer. And we found the evidence of a shot hole borer here. Have a look at this collar.
So we have arrived on Cheetah Plains, and on a nice hot day like today, the best place to look is of course at the waterhole. So we're making our way towards the first waterhole. I haven't been around for a while, so it could be dry. Brian?
You're in for a surprise.
I'm in for a surprise. Is it a wet and wonderful surprise, or is it a bone-caked, dry, droughty surprise?
Yeah, that kind of
Okay.
surprise.
Well, maybe I should have planned my route a bit differently, but not all the animals know, so they might meander towards it to see if there's any water. And so far there's a single buffalo track heading in this direction. And of course, always a good area to look for young quarantine, the male leopard. He likes to lounge about on the odd termit terrier in these parts. That looks quite dry, yes. Oh, is there any sign of moisture? Very little. Some mud. That looks like that single buffalo. Oopsie. Oh, there we go. We've just lost our clutch completely. Bye-bye, clutch. That is a problem. I'll see if I can fix it. But yes, there is a bit of water that a buffalo has been wallowing about in. Looks like maybe an eddy as well. Let me go have a closer look. You never know. There might have been a desperate animal to come have a look. So before we try to fix the vehicle, see what's been here. Ooh, and he went for a swim. Not so much as a swim as a spa day, would say. So yes, it looks like it's a buffalo, and there has been an elephant here as well, but a little bit older. The elephant's been over in that corner, but there are fascinating little holes. And now with that camera, Brian, I need a stick is what I need to show you the fascinating little hole, because otherwise I will be very muddy. Here we go. Let's find a close by branch. Voila. Now you should be able to see them with that camera. Whoa, that was dear. Whoa. Oh no, I got a muddy shoe. Now I definitely have to find some better water. Now let's try from this angle. When it's a sandal. Ooh. Can you see these sort of holes, Brian? Okay. Now, that looks like it's been made by a creature. It's not. It's actually air bubbles escaping from the mud. So once the buffalo has sort of had his fun in here, some air has been trapped inside, and slowly they sort of come to the surface and go pop. Now, speaking of something else that went pop, and hopefully it's not too serious, but let's go across to James while I try to figure out what's wrong with the car.
Well, I hope he does manage to figure out what's wrong with that car. I must say, I think it's been some time coming. I think this time, and probably this time only, it cannot be blamed on Brent Smith. Rusty, at least Wendy's clutch, has been threatening to go for some time. No luck with any lion tracks, but that's okay. We're going to head down to where we thought Karula was around today. Now, what I would very much like all of you to do, or those of you who can, it would be very good if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on the Djuma Dam cam. It has been very hot today, and the last... Hang on 1 second. Ah, it's a lion-coloured rock. Very nice. I really thought for 1 second there that one of these ridiculous stops where I see something would turn out to be something other than an illusion. Not so. So watch the Djuma Dam cam. It is hot today, and the last few times we've seen them at the pan, it's been kind of around, I guess, 4:30, 5 o'clock-ish, and they've come out of hiding to have a drink. So maybe they'll do that again. In the meantime, we are going to hide down Twin Dams Road and see if we can't pick up on Karula and her little babies, the peaceful one. Hoping that she is feeling very peaceful, as opposed to tense, David. You don't want a tense leopard. No, you want a very friendly and peaceful one. Firstly, we shall stop by Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg's, find out how their tea is going. And we shall ask them in Swedish, courtesy of Raisa from Finland. We'll ask them where the lions are. Var är lions? Is that correct? I think it was correct. Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg seem to be out hunting at the moment. Busy day when you can't be at home for tea. Maybe they'll be back at 5 or so. I don't think they're up there, are they, David? Oh no. Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg's away. So we can't ask them in Swedish, where are the lions? Why would I want to ask them in Swedish, you may ask? Well, I don't often do a viewer quiz, but I'm going to do one now, David. Change is as good as a holiday, yes. So my quiz to you tonight, this evening, today, this afternoon, is why would I say, where are Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg's in Swedish? Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarth.tv if you want to tell me. Your prize for winning the quiz will be me clapping 3 times and David going hip hip hurrah. Now, if that is not sufficient to enthuse you into answering, well, I don't know what would be. There, David, is an impala looking very calm. Very calm indeed, indicating that Ljons is not around here. Hello? Are you awake? Look at the nose, panting. Now, as we go into the heat, I always find it a good idea, or an interesting idea, to reacquaint myself with the cooling mechanisms of these animals. That nose, everybody, is very long in order for the animal to cool down. Now, obviously, a primate doesn't have that advantage, but the nasal cavity there is long. I mean, obviously much, much longer than ours. And what that does is provide a moist surface through which heat exchange can take place. And that's why you'll see it breathing through her nose quite extensively, and certainly if you were watching yesterday you would have seen that buffalo cow panting through her nose. And you see a lion. You can hear a squirrel alarm calling, but that could easily be the return of Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg. But this impala does look a little bit uneasy. So the long nose, highly important as we go into the summertime. Not just for looks, but of course because it does help with heat exchange. We don't have that mechanism at all, obviously, and that's why we don't pant. Human beings do not pant. When it's hot, we just sweat. There in the background, I originally saw that background image and I thought, oh, it's a lion stalking the impala. But it is another impala stalking the impala. Very nice. Hello, Debbie in Vancouver. You're wondering if the Nkuhuma Pride would think about perhaps hunting the giraffe at the Jumapan. I don't think at this stage of the day would they hunt a giraffe. Yes, they may well. Without a male, I don't know that they're giraffe specialists. I'm sure they've killed a giraffe or two in their time, but they seem to be very much on to the buffalo specialization at the moment. Now, David, if you wouldn't mind just going down to those white-crested helmet shrikes that are hopping along the ground. So, Debbie, I don't think that they'd go there now to try and kill that giraffe. Were they to come across it during the night and were it to be in a position where they might be able to chase it either down a slope or over some rocky ground, well then yes, I think they would have a go at it. This is a wonderful shot of a white-crested helmet shrike, everyone. They're so pretty. And thank goodness for this lens. There they are. Up a bit. You did see them. There they are. Middle of your frame. Well done. You were not mistaken, David. You had them. That's it. Did you hear that clicking sound? That's their bills clicking together. That's one of the calls they make. Yellow eye, grey helmet, which was why they used to be called the grey helmet shrike before some idiot decided the name should change. Really, it does astound me, the idiocy of the people who name birds. Brown-headed parrot, most obvious feature, bright green back. Black-collared barbet, most obvious feature, bright red face. Gorgeous. Alrighty, David. Let's go and find the leopard. Come on now. Dilly-dally. Ah. Hello, Alan, James, and Marianne, and Aaron. Sorry, not Alan, Aaron, James, and Marianne. Thank you. Yes, you got the correct quiz answer.
Hip hip hurrah!
There we go, well done. And you say the Wahlberg's eagle was named after the Swedish naturalist Mr. Johannes Wahlberg. Ergo, we call them Mr. and Mrs. Wahlberg Swedes. Of course, they don't migrate into Europe at all. They just go into North Africa, so they have never actually been to Sweden or the surrounds. In fact, were they to go to Sweden, I suspect they would freeze themselves with fright. Okay, Steph has managed on this drought-stricken day to find you an insect, and only Steph could have managed that. Let's go and take a look.
Thank you very much, James. Although I must say I can't take all the credit for this particular one. We were sitting over here next to this termite mound, and I'll show you what I was looking at, when all of a sudden, here popped up one of the most delightfully coloured beetles that we've seen in a long time. Initially I actually thought that was a jewel beetle, but it's actually a type of weevil, it looks like. And just have a look at those beautiful metallic colours. See if I can actually grab him for you without him falling away. So I definitely think that he is a beetle, and the type of beetle that I think he is a weevil, and I'll tell you why now. Have a look at that head and those mouth parts. Looks like it's I don't quite know, but just look at those colors. Let's put it in the sun for you. On the bottom, red and black, aposomatic coloring. What he's doing is he's telling things there, don't touch me, I'm distasteful. But just have a look at that display from a display point of view. Oh, did you get the purple and everything coming off of there? That was incredible. How colorful was that for right now? That's amazing. Did you get that, have you? Gee whiz. For those of you who have fingers like lightning conductors on those keyboards, please feel free to send us a screen grab of that little beetle as he opened up his elytra, those hard outer casings on his back, and unfolded the two pairs of wings that they have, the folded, jointed pairs of wings. If you can give me a shot like that, I'll be most appreciated. Don't forget you can post it on Twitter at the hashtag #SafariLive, or use that questions@wildearth.tv email address. I will definitely like that. Let me show you what led to that particular sighting. Was this. Just have a look at that. It's a creeper. This is the thicker one. That's come around this thin little branch. This is a combretum branch. And this creeper is from a jasmine fluminense, but a very old jasmine. Do you think that's amazing? Vivian asked while we were here, do you think that it would be possible for the creeper to break the tree or the tree to break the creeper? I think in this particular sense, the creeper absolutely would break the tree. But just have a look at that. This is as hard can get. I mean, I'm exerting a considerable amount of my strength to trying to break that off. And not even moving. So that is as woody and as lignified as you can get. Just have a look at that. This being the jasmine, this being the combretum. Have a look at this bee that I have here on my head somewhere, I think. Can you see him here, everyone? Somewhere here is buzzing. There's these little flightless stingless bees that we call, well, mopani bees or sweat bees. We've got a colony of them around here somewhere. They are. Just have a look at this hole that we've got here. That is an excavation of all excavations. You can have a look deep down inside there even. It looks like something's been living inside there. You can see that it's hollowed out a cavern. I wouldn't be surprised if a warthog did that. I don't think that it is an ant bear obviously started the excavation, but it looks like a warthog has finished it. I don't think hyena or anything have lived in here. Well, I've got noises happening over my left shoulder, and you know, out here when you're on foot like we are, you always got to watch out for elephant when you're on foot, and that is something that Mr. Henry doesn't have to worry about. He's nice and safe and sound, relatively speaking, in his car with some.
There are some elephants, everybody. Well, actually, that's the tooth of an elephant, a very large elephant tooth. What I'm going to do, Aubrey's just behind us, so I just have to pull off the road. But that's quite a nice bull, that. And so I think let's just see if he doesn't come out into the open. I'm just going to pull off the road so that Aubrey can get past us. If I tell you where Aubrey's going, you're going to be very jealous indeed. So I won't tell you. But then I'll have to, because you'll want to know and you'll feel like you've been left out if I don't tell you. Aubrey's going to Torchwood, everybody, because Tundi is there with her babies and a kill. It's okay. We have an elephant, David. Well, we have a bit of an elephant, sort of. Hello, RJ. You want to know what the vision radius of an elephant is? Now, that's a very good question. The vision radius, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much all the way to the front. There might be a very small blind spot directly in front of the elephant, but really hardly anything. But there is a blind spot about into the middle of the elephant's body. So if an elephant has its head dead straight, what you find is Sorry, I was trying to catch a moth to show you, but it's flown away. What you find is you can actually approach an elephant from the side. I haven't tried this myself, but I have heard about it from fairly reputable sources, aka Steph, that you can approach an elephant from the side if its head is directly straight and it will not see you, which means that it has a vision radius, I suppose, of roughly 180 degrees from side to side, which is certainly more than ours. Ours is probably... you can work it out, everybody. If you want to work out your own vision radius, hold your arms out to the side in a sort of crucifix fashion, right? And that would be 180 degrees. You can't see your hands. Then bring them slowly in, and when you can see both your hands, try and judge the angle between your two hands. There. I would say my vision radius is about 20 degrees off 180. So I'm going to give myself a vision radius of 160 degrees. What about you, David?
162.
162 degrees. Well done. You've got an excellent vision radius. Yes, he doesn't seem to be making great effort to come out and show us what he's doing. Just to keep you updated, Brent Smith is currently freewheeling home. Well, not freewheeling home so much as stuck in one gear, unable to stop. So we wish him all the best as he returns from the Far East and hope that he returns unscathed by either animal or indeed by perhaps a tree that leaps out to bash him. Now that elephant is listening to us quite carefully. But apparently Brent has actually got some wildlife to show you. Let's go and find out what it is.
So we're on the world's first, or WildEarth first, only mobile safari. We managed to get the vehicle going in low range, 4th gear. If we stop, we're stuck and Connor has to come tow us. But there we go. We have Impala on the right. And unfortunately, that is it. We shall see them as we go past. We cannot stop to view them. Sorry, Brian. Brian's doing a good job trying to level on the move. Now, that's how good a cameraman he is. Here we go. Bye-bye, Impala. So, there we go. We do apologize, but I'm afraid it feels like the clutch cable has broken. Now, that's one of the things that happens on these vehicles. And I think this clutch has done pretty well. I think it's about 8-9 months old, or the cable itself. So when we do off-road and things like that, these do happen. Fortunately, a few tricks to get home. Not very fast, as you can see. This is about the maximum speed I can drive the vehicle without over-revving and causing it to overheat and causing other havoc. And we don't want any more havoc. One problem at a time, we prefer. We do have to face them multiple problems at a time, and we deal with them. But if we can keep it to one problem, we try. So let's see what other animal we can move past. And remember, you can ask me questions while I'm on the move, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them while on the move, because we are on the move. And Opa is around, so hopefully we will be able to get him to fix it. I don't think it's too big a job. Oh, Liz. Hi, Liz. Liz would like to know, is there a big 5 when it comes to fishing? Not officially, Liz. But in South Africa, or Southern Africa, in terms of fresh water, I would say the big 5 when it comes to fishing is let's think. One of them definitely is the tiger fish. They grow to about, in this part of the world, about 10-11 kilograms, which is about 25 pounds. Is a monster. And then probably sharp-toothed catfish. They can get up to about 60 kilograms, about 130 pounds. Not such good fighters though. The large-mouthed yellowfish definitely passed for the big 5. Nemwe, Sarenchromis robustus, a large-mouthed predatory bream, definitely up there. I'm trying to think, we need one more, man. Tigerfish, Vundu, another type of catfish, also gets very big, over 100 pounds. And last but definitely not least is probably the smallmouth yellowfish. Now, those in terms of size and fighting, I would call my big five for Southern Africa fresh water. Now, salt water, that's a different story. And of course, we're blessed with incredible saltwater fishing around Southern Africa, but because we can't stop, we're not going to be able to discuss that just yet, because we're about to go into the Mulwanini drainage where there's a gremlin that jumps on us, and we've already had a mechanical gremlin. So before the gremlin jumps on us, let's go back to Steph, see how he's doing on Shank's pony.
We have got a little hunting variable skink here for you. So we left that termite mound, and there's still much noise coming from that side. We decided that we'd walk in the other direction. It's always a safe thing to do out here in the bush when you don't understand the origin of a noise. And it's led us to this interesting little sighting here that you've got, this fantastic camera work again from VM. That is a variable skink, no longer than your hand. So from the beginning of your palm at your wrist to the end of your longest finger, that's how long he is, from nose to tip of his tail. And what makes him so striking is his patterns on his skin are just absolutely crisp, and that's just a sign that this variable skink has shed its skin and is now perched on top of a rock watching us. And you can just see, about as animated in us, or about as interested in us as what we are interested in him. Not very animated at the moment. These little guys very closely related to lizards. In actual fact, there's no real difference. I'm sure there will be some difference, but for the life of me right now, I can't really think what it is. But just have a look at that, those bold stripes that turn to dots, and that's why it's called a variable skink. All the other skinks that we have out here are pretty boldly striped or colored in some way. He gets his name from the fact that he's got a little bit of everything. A few dots and a few stripes. You can also see that he has eyelids. Every now and again he will blink those eyelids. So typical of the frogs that we find in this area, and I'm so looking forward to seeing, is that they have eyes so massive in their skulls that they don't have enough space for muscle attachment. And so they have to blink their eyes and to move their eyes around, they have to actually, let's look at that, that's awesome, well done. They actually have to retract their eyes into their skull so that they can get their eyelids and their eye sockets to basically clean their eyeball. These guys just blink, normal one. Let's see how close we can get VM. I don't think he's actually going to move off this stump. He's safe where he is at the moment. Here we've got a nice picture of his back. Let's see there. Beautiful, eh? Just have a look at that. He'll be on the lookout for anything that he can catch and kill. Now at the moment, things like bees and, not really bees, yeah, bees, he'll eat a bee. They've got this remarkable way of wiping the sting off on vegetation. It'll be bees, but mainly just invertebrates. And by that I mean bugs and things. Bugs and crickets and grasshoppers and locusts and termites when he can. Oh, wow. Have a look at that. There you got, you had a look at that nictitating membrane come over the eye there. Let's see if we can get it again. There you go, you just got a flash of it again. You know, these cameras are so amazing. I've never been able to study the pupil of one of these lizards before, and I see that it is round. You do get keyhole pupils, or pupils that are shaped like a keyhole, or slitted like a house cat's at least anyway. You can see his pupil is round. I've never noticed that about this particular species before. Always a good thing to learn something new out here. Now, what I actually came here for is there's this massive termite mound close to where we are at the moment with a with an excavation in it. And Jamie first found this particular termite mound on a walk some time ago that I was with, and I like to come and check on it every now and again. Since Jamie found this particular termite mound, which was easily about a year ago now, I've only come into this area. This is my third time. You can see what just caught my eye there was, this is a termite, harvested termite. This is the excavation tunnel, and I've just picked it out of the sand. So this is what it would have looked like on top of the sand. Termites would have come out of this hole there at night, harvested grass and everything, brought it to this particular entrance, and then as soon as the sun started to shine, would have concreted up the entrance. But have a look at what this looks like underground, and this is what's so unique about this. Is that what it looks like underground? Nice, eh? Alright, it's just interesting thing about termites. On that note, Brent has got some ellies, and before on his non-stop safari he passes them by. Enjoy.
Okay, so welcome back to On the Move, where we're always on the move. And on the right, on our On the Move safari, will be elephants. Hello, elephants. Nice to see you, elephants. I'd love to spend some time with you, but unfortunately I'm on the move. Bye, madam. Yes, nice to see you too. As you can see, nice relaxed elephants, not worried about us, on the move. Bye, Ellies. Oh, this is a problem now. There's a squirrel alarm calling, and this is the last area Crawly's tracks were seen. Can we spot a leopard on the move? Now that would be quite a feat, to try and turn around and stay with the leopard without stopping. Squirrels alarming over here. Risky business we're at the moment. Can you see where the squirrel's looking? I can't stop. Bye, squirrel. It's looking that way towards Leadwood Road. I'll have to tell James, because we're on the move. Oh, I've got to be careful not to stall, because then we shall not be on the move. We shall be very static, and Connor shall be very upset, because Connor will have to tow us. And we'd rather not be towed. We'd rather be on the move. Brian, this almost deserves a hashtag on the move. On the move safaris, hashtag on the move safaris. In the distance, on the move is an impala that is also on the move. Bye, impala. Of course, we do apologize profusely, but these are one of the things that happens when you're out in the bush. And fortunately, we have such an awesome team that we should have Wendy up and running before too long. Hopefully before the end of the sunset safari, but more likely before the start of the sunrise safari. And I'm hoping with the amount of elephants, we might find some more elephants on the move. But while we are on the move, let's go see if James is stationary somewhere, and I'm going to give him an update about those squirrel alarm calls.
Where are the squirrel alarm calls? Oh, that's right. We had them around the impala. That's right. We didn't find anything, I'm afraid. Now Brent is hailing me. Go ahead.
James, if you find yourself in the vicinity of Leadwood Road, there are quite a few squirrels alarm calling in that general area, looking to the north.
Copy. We're on Leadwood Road now, the eastern end thereof.
Okay, copy, yeah, so sort of right near the junction with Curry Main, there's about 2 or 3 squirrels alarming, looking towards that sort of drainage system, looking due north from the road.
Okay, copy, thanks. Right, so that's good news, everybody. We found a hornbill while we weren't seeing you, and unfortunately the hornbill took fright at David's foot, because he had it hanging out of the car and then it flew away. I don't think it was the smell of David's foot so much as the movement thereof. Right, let's go down a little bit quicker down here. If there was squirrels alarm calling at the junction of Leadwood Road and Gari Main, that's the end of this road. There's a steenbok, David. Let's us ease our way gently past it. It is now running, obviously, at high speed. Slow down! Just a great puff of dust. There you are. Oh, that Steenbok has the courage of a lily-livered thing. Yeah, that's a couple of them. And interesting, she is much larger than he is. I'd say probably about, maybe almost 10%. There's another one. Another female. He's obviously in high demand, that fellow. Small he might be, but he's obviously wealthy with a Ferrari. See if we can see her again. She's definitely looking for them, you know. There's about to be a cat fight here. Look, 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 look! She was chasing him. Was that a he? Was that a he? David? I couldn't see there exactly. I wonder if he wasn't chasing the smaller male, maybe. It looked like a she when she came across the road, though. Well, that's the most Steenbok action we've ever had. Very nice. Let's keep going down the road here. Not too far from where Brent said he heard the squirrel's alarm calling. I'm going to drive at a relatively high speed. I will be able to drive slightly faster than Brent, of course, because I know that we can stop. We have got a clutch that works. We're not too far from where he said. He thought somewhere close to this drainage line. Now, a squirrel, of course, has got very good eyes and will shout at anything that might try and bite it. So be it a bird in the sky, a leopard on the ground, a lion perhaps, anything. But interestingly also, I got off the car to go and look at some starlings that were shouting at each other this morning, and it was not too far from where we're going now, and I wonder if Karula didn't just pop through that area. Time will tell. Let's go and have a look. We'll just watch the road carefully for tracks, so if I'm not looking you in the eye, it's because I'm just staring at the road to see if she has crossed. Going to turn off here and listen, because I thought I heard a bird that we don't see here often. Now, I thought for a second I had heard a acacia pied barbet. But it didn't seem to be calling there anymore. Has anybody got acacia pied barbet on their bird lists? I'd be very interested to know. Quite common in many areas, but I don't know that I've seen one here. There's some dwarf mongoose here, so we'll just stop here and have a listen. Now, this is a roundabout where I would expect to start seeing tracks if Karula had been around here. Let's just put it on the camera on the base of this tree here, and we'll make the noise. You give it a go, Dave. Oh. What? Oh, I'm not even plugged in. Hand over to Steph when I'm done. I'm done. Let's go across to Steph.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, we have got a variable skink that we've been sitting with literally for the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. And it's just been so super to watch this little skink watch us, basically. And it's just allowing some of the most fantastic up-close visuals of this. One of the more common skinks in the bush. Around camps, you do find the rainbow skink to be more common, or even the 5-line skink. But out here in the bushveld, I seem to find these variable skinks are definitely the most common. Now, he would have a little area that he would have hunted today, probably within the vicinity of where we are right now. And he would be looking for any invertebrate, so any type of insect or spider that he could overpower. Or she, in actual fact. I don't actually know what sex it is. And the only real way to tell what sex it would be to probe their cloaca. I know that sounds like the most bizarre name that you've ever heard in your life, but a common urogenital opening, so where you excrete urea but also accept sperm, lizards and things like birds have a common opening, and that common opening is called a cloaca. And you get a probe. It's this surgical, basically, it looks like I suppose a toothpick, but without the sharp end. I know that sounds a little bit macabre, but basically it's the only way you can sex lizards, really. And you just insert it gently into the cloaca. If it's a slightly elongated cloaca, then it's a female. If it's a slightly shallower cloaca, then it's a male. Why we actually got onto that topic, I'm not too sure right now. I'm sorry for those of you who found it a bit disturbing, and for those of you who found it interesting, it's a pleasure. Now, I was just about to say about the hunting strategy of these particular skinks. So they'd use their eyesight. They don't have a forked tongue. They'd use their eyesight to look for movement. So staying hidden exactly as he is now, using that brilliant camouflage to stay hidden and motionless. Something would trigger their attention, so some movement to trigger their attention. And what would happen then is he'd make quite an elaborate stalk with a final rush up to the prey, grabbing it in his mouth and then shaking it around vigorously, which hopefully kills the prey and breaks it off into bite-sized chunks. And then he will hold it with those front legs. You can actually see from where you are now. I'm actually not sure how long the claws are on variable skinks. I must be honest with you, I've never actually seen one up closer than what you are right now, so I couldn't actually tell you how long the claws are. I do know that they hold their prey. I've watched them hold their prey before, while they rip pieces off and then devour it pretty much whole. Isn't it incredible? You can see that it... Alright. And I think before Brent disappears home and gets Wendy fixed, he'd like to say something to you. So off you go.
So welcome back to On The Move. It is the Killer Bees here, Brian Joubert and Brent Leo Smith. We are trying to get the world's first on-the-move bird while moving. So we're searching quarantine as we go back towards camp. We're hoping for a roller. Oh, Brian's got it, and we're on the move. I can't see it yet. Brian's got it. Well done, Brian, on the move. But the roller is stationary. Good for the roller. There we go. Lilac-breasted roller, silhouetted in the marula tree, on the move. Here we go, better colours as we get past. Get on the right side of the light. Lovely camera work there, Brian. I know this is not easy to be on the move. Now, the next challenge that faces us is getting over the workshop pit on the move. And then we're going to have to stall the car on the move over the pit without going into the staff village. But I'm sure we'll make a plan and get there. And on the move again, we have some grey-headed sparrows that are seriously on the move, or about to be. There we go. So unfortunately, Brian and I are going to leave you. We really wish we could have taken you on an adventure on Cheetah Plains, But Wendy had other ideas. But as I said, our incredible team, we hope they'll have Wendy up and running in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Now, well, a nice shortened drive for myself on my way back, and I can't wait to get out early tomorrow morning, find all those lions, leopards, and hopefully some wild dogs. From the coffee bean thumber, who's got so much caffeine and energy, he's not going to know what to do with himself for the next hour and a half. Maybe we should put him to work in the car. But while we go try sort out the vehicle, let's jump back on to 2 feet with Stefan Winterberg.
Thanks, Brent. Good luck there with the Wendell. Hopefully she comes back out pretty soon and is not too serious. We're still sitting with a skink here. It's just one of these very rare moments that you get to share a pretty intimate, moment with an animal like this. Mainly because he doesn't have much to eat, or she doesn't have much to eat. The only branch in the area to hide on is what she's hiding on. And we're posing no significant threat to her whatsoever, or him whatsoever. So Liv, you've asked me how many different species of skink are there in this area. I'm actually just trying to think of all the names as you asked the question. There's the variable skink, the rainbow skink, the 5-lined skink. Then there's a variety of legless skinks. And that is what I can remember off of the top of my head. So let me go with 3 or 4 probably different species, and 3 of these terrestrial skinks, not the subterranean skinks, the legless skinks. You do get a bunch of skinks that live in termite mounds that have no legs, or they've got tiny little vestigial legs but that have lost their use, basically. But terrestrial skinks, the variable, the 5-lined, and the rainbow skink with the blue tail or the orange tail, that is what I know for now. I'm racking my brain there. Now, what I am going to have a look at, I don't believe that skinks, actually I do believe that skinks can shed their tails. I've seen it before in actual fact. So skinks can do this funny thing called autotomy, which means that they can shed their tail if something grabs them from the back. So if something rushes a skink from behind it, a snake or a bird that hunts, look at him looking up into the sky for birds. I wonder if he's seen anything. That's incredible. And if a bird or a snake catches him on the tail, he can actually drop his tail. There's a very thin joint, and I'm actually trying to look and see if I can see it. There's a joint at the back of the tail, so if you follow the body, you should be able to see it from your angle. It's almost like a kink in the tail. And there should be a line there. And this skink can then shed its tail, and the tail will wiggle around like an earthworm, or wriggle around on the floor and do its funny thing, while this skink either makes an escape or lies motionless in the leaf litter, hoping that its moving tail draws the attention of whatever's hunting it. Because don't forget, a lot of things that hunt by movement and by fixating on movement. So by staying still and letting the tail do the work, they sacrifice their tail to live another day. And that thing is called autotomy, or that type of adaptation is called autotomy, the sacrificing of a limb to save oneself for another day. Octopus can do it, geckos and skinks can do it. I don't know if lizards can do it. I've never seen an agama or anything like that with a short tail. I've definitely seen skinks, and they do grow their tail back. It's never as long as the original one, but they do grow it back, and you can even get a bifurcated tail. So when a tail, the original tail, snaps on that joint but doesn't break off completely, the new tail will grow alongside it, and you get a bifurcated or forked tail. I've only ever seen one of those in my life. A bifurcated skink, or a skink with a bifurcated tail. It was a 5-lined skink. Just incredible, right? Ah. So Kalinda, you've asked me if you've stated that when a skink loses its tail, is it not a hardship for that skink if it in times of like we have right now? And I'm basing this on the fact that you would have heard one of us talk about skinks and tissues, particularly along their backs and on their tails. We're actually talking about it from a monitor lizard a couple of days ago, I think, when I was driving last week or so, that had quite a skinny back where it had used up all his fat. And yes, they actually do. But the tail joint where it actually comes off is, I'm going to see if I can actually point it out to you, and it's just behind that fatty layer. Oops, it's there. It doesn't like the movement. It is there where he can shed his tail about. So just behind where he can actually store that fat. Just have a look at that respiration. I must be honest, we've been very lucky this week in terms of lizards. We had that fantastic monitor lizard the other day, and now we have got a variable skink for you. And on that note, and the skink just got a fright there with VM standing up, we are going to say goodbye for now, and we are going to send you over to James. See you in a couple of minutes.
There's a white-bellied sunbird, everybody. Oh, that's great. Well done, Dave. They're so difficult to get because they fly around almost like bees. That's him calling. Tick, 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 tick. There he is. How cool is that? Look at his colors. And many of you ask if we have hummingbirds here. We don't have hummingbirds here. This is the evolutionary equivalent of the hummingbird. It is a white-bellied sunbird. He's probably about 6 inches long, maybe a bit bigger, maybe 8 or 9 inches long. One of the larger sunbirds. Oh, he's lovely. Listen to him calling. And he's just starting to get territorial, you see, as the spring progresses. Yeah, he's gone over the top. Well done, David, well done. That was a good one. Not easy to get that, I must say. Sounds to me like you've had the best skink sighting in the history of skink sightings, which is excellent. Now, it was said that Karula is in here somewhere. I took a walk down there. I'm afraid I found nothing. I didn't see any squirrels that were disconcerted. I did see one Nyala who was disconcerted, but that was because I was around, not for any other reason. I'll just do one turn up the river here. Oops. David said he was a bit concerned for me because an elephant disappeared across the road while I was away, which was very nice of him to be concerned for me. Thankfully I didn't see the elephant. There's the Nyala I saw. I'll just get in line with him. I can still hear that sunbird. Chip, chip, can you even see it there, Dave?
No, I don't see it.
Let me try and get you into position. But I basically walked this little block between Ledwood Road and the Wati. There he is. You can just see him through there. Let's turn off and have a little bit of a listen to what's going on around here. Oh, and there's some babblers to the left, Dave, but I don't think you should even bother with the camera, to be honest. I think they're going to hop around and be difficult to see. Move a little bit forward. And is everyone keeping an eye on the damn cam just to see if those cats don't book out? Cat in Tambo, you say the white-bellied sunbird is number 97 for you and you want to get to 100? Well, we might be very lucky today. I'm sad we didn't get the acacia-pied barbet. I'd still love to know if somebody has the acacia-pied barbet or not. Kee, 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 is the call that it makes. Let's see if we can find a leopard as well while we look for the acacia-pied barbet. Oh, nectar or bug eater for the sunbird? James Dungan, you want to know, that's a question from you, put through in summary form by Kirsten, and therefore it was slightly confusing. They are both. They eat nectar. They've got exactly the same kind of arrangement that the hummingbirds do, that long bill, and they hover, and they've got a long probing tongue, but they also use that for insects, because of course in this part of the world there aren't flowers all the time, and therefore there isn't nectar all the time. There, you see it, Davy? Cat has definitely got the brown-hooded kingfisher up a bit. He's just in the thicket there, middle of your frame. He lives here. I think this brown-hooded kingfisher's got a nest here. Just over here. They nest in mud banks. The nest is somewhere around here. I'm going to try and get the bird first though, but it may have flown off. The nest, if you look in here, oh, hang on. The nest, you see that hole underneath the bush here?
Yes.
That's the kind of hole that it's going to nest in. That's the brown-hooded kingfisher. Pity for you! Pity for you! Which I've no doubt all of you have seen. Cat, it's definitely on your bird list. Anyway, so back to the sunbirds. Yes, nectar, but there isn't nectar here all the time, and so they must supplement the diet, especially during winter, because they're not migratory, with insects when they can find them. Alright, let us continue. I'm just looking under all the bushes here, into the boughs of the trees. See if there isn't a leopard draped somewhere around here. Here's the jackalberry tree I was talking about earlier when I too was in a jackalberry tree. And you can see it's got fresh leaves on it, not old ones. Let's just have a little listen while you look at the tree. And so semi-deciduous, they lose their leaves completely, sort of randomly almost, and then get them back very quickly. Ah, the sweet, sweet feeling of the northeaster coming in off the sea some distance away. Oh, that's very pretty, David, but for the aerial. There we are. Let's continue along the Mlwamati. I know Brent did come down here earlier, but it's worth just doing it again because there isn't much in the way of, well, there's no road through there. Alright, we'll try and find a heartbeat. While we do that, let's go across to Steph, who's got a number of, well, not quite heartbeats, but fairly scary life.
We do indeed, and I hope James likes what we've just found him, because this is the first community nest spider that we found active after winter. So this is an active and what seems to be relatively healthy community nest web spider, or velvet spider as they're also called out here. Right in the top of the frame, right in the top of this leaf bundle, you'll notice them flitting around in there. And what I'm going to do, can you see them, Bim, or is it they disappeared? Right, so you get them right inside of the screen, VM says. You'll get them moving. I can't see from my side where they are, but hopefully they'll come out and you'll get to see what one of these little spiders look like. While we're waiting for them to come out, just take a gaze across this web and have a look at the mass of prey that they managed to collect last year. There's bits and pieces of beetle and butterfly and Oh, it just looks like flying ant and grasshopper and cricket that I can see. And another thing that we've got, which is also quite nice, is one of those beetles that we've just found right now has been stuck in this web. Have a look here. Remember that beetle with the purple wings that we found 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago? Here's one that's been caught and is dead in this web. Has yet to be discovered by these. Oh, it's not even dead yet. Hey, little guy. I gave you a new lease on life. Are you gonna... Let me just take him out of the sticky. Here we go. Let's see if he opens up his wings for us and flies and gives us that fantastic purple... Let me come around this side. Gives it... Whoa, whoa, don't fly yet. Get your cameras ready, everybody, if he decides to open up his wings. Let's see, he wants to. There he goes. They're just stuck together with just too much web. Let's give him a high point. Come on. There he goes. There, almost wants to. Brilliant purple wings on this red body with this iridescent and very shiny elytra. So let's help him a little bit. Let's clean his elytra from some... Oh. Let's clean his elytra, not drop him on his head, I suppose, was what I was trying to do. So here he is here. There he's... One of his wings has come unfolded there. Come on. Oh, that's fantastic. Reminds me so much of those burnet moths that we get here in summertime. December, with that iridescent red and black, I think, that they have on them. Amazing how you forget these things. Come on, you're now at the top of your mountain. And if it's not an elevation thing that he needs to be high, there we go. Let's do that again. Let's just show you that again. So here we go. All gone. Isn't that amazing? So now we can come back to our spider. Saved him. I thought that he owed us another takeoff since we saved him from a certain death in the spider's web. Now, for those of you thinking that we stole some food from these spiders, that's not the case. These spiders are only now getting active again, and it's at this particular time that they need to start rebuilding this mass of web. It's only once they've started to do that that actually start to find and be able to catch all these prey. Now, these spiders hunt very similar to how hyenas do. They hunt cooperatively, and by hunting cooperatively, they can kill a lot bigger thing. And by killing a lot bigger things, it means less effort for more energy in, and that means that more of them can survive. So this whole nest is made up of a bunch of females and adolescents who live in here and help one another. And this ball of leaves and matted web is where they live. Actually, let's see if I can coax one out here. So let's take a stick. And what I'm going to do is act like I'm stuck. Let's put the stick in here and act stuck. You can see them all rushing now to the stick. Have a look at that. There's one coming to investigate and another one from below. You see that? Have a look at that. Coming to the end of the stick. There we go. Bit it. And now they actually talk to one another through this web. They'll be able to send out a vibration that tells other spiders, look here, they're all coming now. Look there. And there is your first look at a community nest spider. Isn't that amazing? Now they've gone to tell one another that it was just a stick. teasing them by some moron like I am at the moment. So, so sorry, spiders. Anyway, we're going to send you up to James now, who has got an update for you. Thinking?
I came up here because it is a perfect little castle of clay built by Macrotermes natalensis, the fungus-growing termite. Also because this is a favorite sort of path of Karula's to walk along the top of the bank here. And as we discovered when we were following Nkuhuma during Big Cat Week last, that was in February, we discovered that the leopards very seldom actually walk along the drainage like this. They will walk sort of through the bushes on the top. And so it's always a good idea to just pop your heads over the top. But isn't that a wonderful castle there? And it is still active, and when there's a little bit of moisture you'll find that it will become bigger. Here we go, David. I'm going to descend with a great speed. Whew. Like watching a man half my age, wasn't it? Okay, on we go. Not massively successful on the heartbeat front at the moment, everyone. But that's okay. You'll find other pretty things to show you, like that castle. No, Rusty. That's it. On we go. I'm going to drive a little bit faster, cover a bit more ground before the sun doth set. Speedboat, David, you could ski behind this. It'd be quite fun, that, actually. Now I believe that there is only Impala going on at the Nkuhuma Dam Pan. Ah, Velma, you were here recently. Hello, and thank you for watching again. I'm very glad that your visit here hasn't put you off us completely. You want to know if the orchid that I planted in the knobthorn tree next to the Nkuhuma Dam Pan ever actually grew. Velma, unfortunately, the orchid did not grow on account of the fact that it was thieved by some squirrels. Some squirrels had at it, ate it to pieces. I don't want to go up this road, hang on a second. They took all the seed out of the sort of pod that I planted there, and so no, it didn't grow. David the aerial has taken a rest behind you. So unfortunately not, and I have yet to find sort of a reliable method of instruction for how to plant and maintain a leopard orchid, Ancelia gigantea. So Velma, thank you for remembering that, but unfortunately the squirrels put paid to my gardening attempts at the Nkuhuma Dam. I was hoping to have very beautiful, sweet-smelling yellow flowers with brown spots at Christmas time last year, but alas, all we had was the droughtish heat. You weren't with us yet, were you, David? No. It was an amusing time, Christmas here. Now, all the elephant tracks are going the other way, which is very disconcerting, but what we're going to do is make our way slowly back towards the water of Nkuhuma Dam and the Galago Pan, because I cannot believe that there's nothing going to go and have a drink fairly soon. And we did go past the Galago Pan at the very beginning of the drive before we even started, and there were a whole lot of beefaloes there, but they were not looking particularly disturbed by life. Oh, hello Alice, you say you've been watching the show for a week from London and you say you're obsessed. Well, I'm not sure obsession's a very good thing, but I'm very pleased with your enthusiasm for our show. It's lovely to have you with us, and thank you for asking us a question all the way from London. Here are some nyalas. And Alice, you want to know about the drought and if there is a record for the longest drought. I don't think this is the longest drought, Alice. It's certainly, however, Here are the nyalas, young bulls. It certainly was the driest season on record since 1904. And that was last year. That was the driest rainy season. But you see, a drought, of course, is an extended period without rain. So were we to go into the next season and not have any rain, I think then it would quite comfortably be the longest drought we'd ever had. But I don't think we're quite there yet. It was the driest, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the hottest year on record since 1904. That was last year in summer. And boy, did we feel it. I can remember never resenting the summer before, and I've lived in the Lowveld for many, many years. And last year I resented it. Because normally what happens is it gets very hot, and then round about this time of the day you see these massive storm clouds building. And even if they don't dump on you, they just kind of fill your spirit with expectation and joy at the thought of rain. But that didn't happen last year. The sun rose, turned white 5 minutes after it came up over the horizon, and remained white until it set, blisteringly hot still, all the way to midnight. But we're led to believe this year, Alice, that La Niña is going to be dumping quite a lot of rain on us. David, what are you laughing at? David, you must always attempt to pronounce foreign languages in, in the relevant accent. So you can't say La Niña. You've got to say it like a Mexican drug lord. La Niña. There we go, browsing on the last copper leaves. So there's obviously quite a lot of nutrition in the dry leaves. He's taking some dry and fresh there. And I don't think he looks like he's in bad condition at all. Looks fine. Look at the markings all over his face. You'll read various theories as to why they have those markings. Most of them I believe to be absolute cods. I think it's far more likely that any marking that he has is to save him from predation. And perhaps those white chevrons under the eyes there that you can see, those might be an aid to reflect light into his eyes during the darkness. Some people have tried to tell me that it's light, or tried to reflect light into the eyes because they live in thick bush, but I've been in the thickest bush imaginable around here, and I've never been blinded by the darkness. So I think with many of these animal adaptations you'll find that the theories surrounding why they have them are outlandish, born of people with too much time on their hands, David. Yes. What is it? How does the saying go? Idle hands make? I've forgotten. It's because we're so busy. Very beautiful antelope, by far my favourite here. Idle minds make mischief for the devil, says Kirsten. Well, she is red-headed and so intimately acquainted, of course, with the devil. Idle hands make idle mans. I'm confused. That's all I heard there. It's very confusing. She's from Natal, you see, and so she doesn't really speak a version of English that the rest of us can understand. I'm going to be in beastly trouble when I get home. All we're getting now, Kirsten, I'm afraid, is loud static, and that isn't your fault. Unless, of course, your voice has changed in anger, and it's now going when you... That really was a very gentle, beautiful sighting. Now, there are monkeys at the Duma Dam Pan. Wonder if they're being stalked by little lion cubs. Maybe. I'm going to make my way around there, regardless. Because I've got a feeling in my bones that something's going to happen there. My aging bones, David. As we go into the summer of 2016, It's my 40th summer, David. 40 times have I experienced summer.
How does this one compare?
It's not quite as good as the summer of 1977, but it's not bad. I always felt so sorry for people who had their birthdays in the winter time, so the June and July babies, because you could never have a party with, and a swimming party, you see, David. But I suppose that's opposite if you're in the northern hemisphere. Right, now this is a roundabout again where Rexon and I thought the lions were going to be this morning. They are not there now, they were not here earlier, and indeed the buffalo that I thought they were going to eat seem to have absconded as well. Let's see what we can find down in the drainage here, or indeed anywhere. Just going to have a little bit of a listen when we get to the top here. See if we can't hear some alarming. Let's see if we can hear some alarming, David. It's quite quiet, isn't it? Not a lot of alarming at all. You feeling peckish yet, David? You are feeling a little peckish, are you? Right, well, let me rectify that situation. We've tried just about all the bark of the elephant so far, but we have not tried Combretum Colinum. I think we had some Combretum, some red bush willow the other day, but Colinum we have not had. So fear not, David. I'm going to feed you. I know you're a hungry lad, growing boy. You're not old like me, you see. Yes. I'm going to give it to you mainly because I don't know what it tastes like, and I want you to try it first.
Are you not going to have them with me?
No, I'm absolutely not. Well, I am once I've seen your facial expression. Beautiful colour. There you are. And that particular branch you may have seen is has been chewed by an elephant, probably a little elephant that was too small to break it off, and so he's just stood there and kind of not good. Really horrible. He put the whole thing in his mouth, you see. Silly fellow. Yeah, no, it's foul. Just like its cousin, the red bush willow. Disgusting. Oh well, at least we know. We still have a few more to taste, but that was a good experiment there. So the little elephant would have just eaten there, if you don't mind just going back onto the bit that's been chewed. To the left there, yeah. Little elephant would have come and stood and eaten that while his mother destroyed the rest of the plant, and then they would have headed off together, possibly towards the Djuma Dam Pan. I'm deeply confused. All I can hear is Louise counting Steph out of a bushwalk. Hello? Final control. What has happened? Please get hold of the Russian and give him a beating. Alright, on we go. I knew it! There are elephants at the pan, the same ones that ate that tree, David, definitely, without doubt. Hold on, everyone. I want to go and see them, because I think something else is going to pitch up there too. Just getting to that time of the day when the lions might think, oh, we're a little bit thirsty, I think we'll go out and have a drink before we go marauding tonight. Careful, David. Are you alright?
Yes.
Hold on tight, everyone. Kudu, we're going to leave for now. Round the corner, drop a gear, rev the engine. Woo! It's extreme, David, it's extreme. Evidently there. I can see the dust being raised by the elephant herd. Hello, Jarek. You're a new viewer and it's lovely to have you with us, and you want to know how it is that we can see what you're saying on the chat. Well, Jarek, when you join WildEarth, you've seen The Matrix, have you? You've seen that film The Matrix with Keanu Reeves in it? Basically what happens is that they implant a chip in the base of your skull here, or it's just under here, and this wire basically plugs me into the internet and it feeds into my brain, and so I'm able to load, well, various things from the internet, whatever I like. I can look at Facebook if I like while I'm driving around here, but at the moment I've got the feed loaded so I can see the comments coming through. Derek, I'm talking absolute rubbish, of course. We have got a room full of highly competent people, currently peopled by Louise and Kirsten, and Louise and Kirsten have got feeds, hundreds of them just about. Oh, it's our favourite little half-trunk herd, everyone. Let's go a little bit faster. And Jarek, what they do is they monitor the YouTube feed, they monitor Twitter, they monitor the email, they monitor the dam cam, they monitor various different feeds, and then when a question comes through that's relevant to what we're seeing, they will ask it, especially if you happen to be a new viewer and you've taken the time to get hold of us. So thank you very much for that, Jarek. There's nothing mystical about it. Oh, they then read it through, of course, into my ear via this earpiece here. And yeah, that's how it's done. It's not particularly complex. It's quite complicated to get it done, but conceptually it's not very complicated. Let's go and have a little look at our favourite half-trunk herd. Hello, chaps, and a hippopotamus. Do you see the hippopotamus, David? It's that very big grey thing lying in the water. Yes, very nice. I'm just going to give her a little bit of space because she's looking a little bit nervy today. I think probably because of the hippopotamus. Oh, and there's a very ropey looking warthog there. David, do you see it? Just walking off there. Shame. That's the first warthog I've seen here that's starting to look a little bit, well, like it's suffering from the drought. Shame. And the warthog looks particularly sad when they're skinny. Yeah, I lost a lot of weight, that warthog. Definitely started to kind of lose muscle mass. Oh, look. It's Davey, if you don't mind, when you're done there, look at the little elephant here, playing over there. It's wonderful. That's so cool. And here comes Mums shouting at him now. She's just giving him a little bit of an earful, I think. It's quite sweet. I think she's obviously said to them, that's it, we've had enough here, we're going. So they all said, okay, and off they go. I love this little herd, everyone. I'm not entirely sure what the makeup is. I think it's, well, I'm sure of 3 of them. I think the female, the half-trunk female is the matriarch, well, she definitely is. I think she's got at least 2 youngsters here, the very small one and the second smallest one, and the other one may or may not be a sibling or her very first offspring. But it would make her it would have made her very young when she had that one, and probably about 13 years old, because I don't think she's much more than 20. Oh, look. You see him getting cross there? And he's getting cross because of this magnificent animal coming towards us now. We started the drive with him, and he's now coming towards the pan to have a drink. He's a really good-looking fellow, Dave. I like how beautifully camouflaged the aerial is in that shot. He's so skinny he might disappear behind it. Yes. Must be lovely to be able to lick your own nostrils, don't you think? I think this is the place to be tonight, everybody. When we go off air, I think this is going to be something to just keep open somewhere if you've got an internet TV, or perhaps you'll be travelling home from work or whatever it is. Keep the damn cam feed live, because I think you're going to see some things here tonight. I just have a feeling. Alternatively, you may just waste your money on bandwidth watching this hippopotamus doing what he's doing now. I think this giraffe might want to come and have a drink. Yeah, it's so peaceful there, isn't it? Watching them walk away. Now the giraffe, in totally typical giraffe fashion, is coming slowly closer, nervously. I'm going to find the best place to drink. I don't think he'll drink with us this close. I thought he might from that side. Let's just see what he does. Has he lost that bit of his ear there, Dave? No, it's just floppy. He's got a floppy ear. That's ridiculous. He's got a floppy ear. I don't know why I find that funny, but I do. I might take a picture of him, David. I shall send it to National Geographic for their front cover. I'm sure they will accept it. It's a classic. Got his floppy ear there. That's really quite a nice shot, I think, of them all. Oh, look at his face. He's got very short eyelashes for a giraffe, everybody. Now, I don't know what that white stuff is on his face there, but you can see he's scratched a lot of his nose off. That's really interesting. I'll tell you why it's interesting. I think what you'll find is that he's having to take risks with his eating. He's probably having to stick his face into more and more thorny places that he might not normally, and that is creating scratches and nicks on the top of his nose. That's quite interesting. And there again you can see the length of the nose, very good for heat dispersal, for panting. That ear is ridiculous. And look at the trees behind him. I think that's just such a wonderful shot. It's just very peaceful indeed, and this is what giraffes do. You see, they come to the water's edge and then they just stare, slightly gormlessly. I fear me his mind doesn't work at a tremendous speed. You can almost... Oh dear, I've just dropped my lens cap. It's like his mind is just very slowly ticking over, thinking, there is a hippopotamus. And I'm thirsty. So, should I take a step forward? And no, I won't. I think I must go. While we wait and see what this indecisive giraffe is going to do, let's head across to Steph and get an update from him as the golden light of the setting sun shines upon his balding pate.
Well, we got a termite mound that's actually stopping the sun from reflecting off my balding head. Thank you, James. We got our faces stuck into a peltaphorum. This is this African wattle. Now, generally, elephant don't actually feed on these plants, but we've been watching over the last week or so that elephant have been stuffing branches of peltaphorums literally just into their mouths. I think I know why. A, they're quite hairy. The leaf itself has got a bit of a fur on it, or a fuzz on it. See if I can show you there. But you can see, maybe you'll be able to see on the side there that there's a fur. It's got like a fuzzy texture to it. Let's see if we can show you that. So you can see that fuzziness, and I don't think that tastes very nice. If I were to put this in my mouth and chew it a little bit, I'm expecting that. Actually, no, that's not what I'm tasting. It just tastes green. It doesn't taste unpleasant. Not very tanniny. To be quite honest with you, I can't tell you why elephant don't feed on this more often. I mean, it doesn't taste distasteful. It's not particularly poisonous. It doesn't have a poison to it. The hairs that I thought would be problems are not. I mean, on my lips they feel a bit bad. I mean, but not too bad. So my only other thought that I had was, if you have a look over here in this tree, I'm going to go around the other side here and climb into it for you as much as I can. But you'll notice that where this elephant broke off these sticks here and here, the branches haven't coppiced nicely. The actual entire branch has died. And I think that these elephants know what trees they kill with breaking. I think that these trees are very prone to dying when they break. And a weeping wattle has quite a spreading crown, almost like an umbrella thorn tree. It has a wide crown that enjoys drooping branches, and I think the elephant know that to break these trees would be to kill the tree. I know that sounds bizarre when you have a look at this holocaust of a bush that is around us at the moment, but for the majority, the trees that the elephants push over, the small trees that they break, are all combretums. And every bush that you're looking at here, pretty much barring the trees, is being coppiced. Meaning, when you break it, when you break one branch, two grow. And we break that branch, another two grow. You push it over, the tree just literally goes like this and starts growing from the side. I want to see if I can show you some of that here, some examples of it here. Here we go. Here you can see that this combretum was pushed over. You can absolutely see that. But what you can have a look at as well is the fact that it's just grown vertical branches. And that is just the one massively awesome thing about these combretums, is that they just seem to have this understanding of an elephant. So rather than fighting elephant, they just learned how to deal with it. Where that peltaphorum not. You break a branch of a peltaphorum, it's very difficult. That branch sort of dies there. I don't know. It's just the theory. It's a shot in the dark, I think, as to why they've only now started to feed on peltaphorums. Have a look. Talking about these creepers. This creeper's obviously been snapped off, but have a look at how it actually affects that bark underneath it. Incredible. So the bark of a tree is where all the transport of the nutrients happens. And obviously this tree was feeling a bit constricted, couldn't grow, and therefore just made a plan. Went underneath the root basically, or underneath this creeper. And this isn't even a very hard one. Not hard like that other one we found just now. But this creeper's had a dramatic effect on the wood of that tree. It's fantastic. Finding all these things at the moment. Very nice. You got us wandering through this parkland. Karen, you've asked me about any trees that produce pods here that utilize animals to distribute them. We have a couple of trees with pods out here. In actual fact, that Peltiforum that I just showed you now has a pod on it. We've got the Shambok pod out here. We've also got all the mahoganies, the Natal mahogany and the pod mahogany. All have pods with seeds on them. Some of them have winged seeds, other of them have quite a fatty deposit on the top of the seed that allows an animal a treat if it takes it away, a smaller animal, to hoard it, for instance. So many trees out here have pods. I'm thinking of what else has a pod out here that we can think of. The combretums, no, they don't have a pod. They have a winged seed that is used, that water distributes, called a samara, but not a pod like you're asking me. Yeah, and that's about that actually. Come and have a look here. This is a sign that an elephant has been here. Now, although there's no footprint here, there's no feeding activity, there's nothing else. There's this wet patch of sand from an elephant urinating on this particular spot. And I scratched it with my stick to see how wet it actually is. It's not that bad. Oh, but it is so potent. I think it's because this urine is just having all of the water basically drained out of it, and it's just leaving this ultra concentrated urine. Oh man, that's hardcore. Wow. I don't quite know what to... It's not a urine-y smell. It's a very sharp, not ammonia. It's a sharp green smell, if I can... It's not like any domestic animal I've ever smelled before in my life. No, I don't know what that smells like, and I need to stop smelling it at the moment. It's starting to make my eyes tear a little bit. And I'm going to use the last little bit of my water to wash my hand off as well from that thing. But on that note, I think we'll send you across to James for an update. Have you smelled?
James for an update.
We are live. Now, David,
James.
you're hungry, aren't you?
Very.
Good. Look what I found you. Now, I said to you a while back, everybody, that I was going to try and eat one of these before they'd flowered. It is a knobthorn flower. They will eventually look like that sort of bottle brush, very small bottle brush, maybe test tube brush. And I saw the monkeys eating them, so I was wondering what they're going to taste like. There you are, David.
James. Well, you have to eat it with me.
Yes. Delicious. What does it taste like?
Very dry.
Dry.
Yes.
Yes. It's not bad. It's not delicious. It's not sweet. But actually, it's really not bad. Actually, it is bad. It's horrible. Look, if I was a desperate monkey, I might eat one. Otherwise, no. Now just a reminder, if you are a young person watching, even if you're an old person watching, please do not go into the wilderness and start eating things unless you know exactly what they are and the effects that they will have on you. Yeah, it's really important that, all jokes aside, you can do yourself some tremendous harm if you just go into the bush and start tasting things like I do out here. I only do it to plants I know, and I always give it to the cameraman first to see if he dies first. That's also very important. You must take a friend out, someone less important than you. I'm obviously being tremendously arrogant now. Take someone whose life you value less than your own, give them something to eat. I'm going to stop now. Alright, we're going round to the Gallagher waterhole, and we're hopefully going to find the lions eating some of those buffalo there. Let's go and see. The sun is setting in a blaze of glorious orange and copper, and you can see there it is setting in amongst the lightning conductors of WildEarth camp, the best value bed in all the Sabi sand. Why do I say that? Well, because it is. You have the most amazing traversing here. Buffelshoek, Torchwood, WildEarth, Cheetah Plains, and it's, I think, just one of the best value places you can come. Very nice, David. We'll just watch it drop fully into the netting there. And thank you to those of you who thought I was amusing eating that flower. To those of you who were offended by my spitting and coughing and spluttering, I apologize. That kind of slapstick is not for everybody. There we are. Well done, David. Very beautiful. Whenever I give it to the cameraman, of course, and I pretend to eat it in front of him, I forget, of course, that he is watching me through his viewfinder, so it is impossible to do something without him knowing. Always watching. Now, there are two duiker running around through here. They looked like they were chasing each other. One of them was very, very dark. Oh. Well, there's a nyala there as well. That wasn't what they were running from. I suspect they ran through here. Oh, there's the duiker. Can you see it there, Dave? How cool is that? Doesn't think we can see her. Yes, you. Yes. Yes, you. No, couldn't be. Yes. Off you go then. Don't turn your back on me. Yes, you. Exactly. And what are you doing here? Up to no good, aren't you? Lovely piece of road this, Dave. Hello, River Age 9. Now, there's a very good question from you. You say, have I ever got sick from something that I've eaten in the bush? Not that I'm aware of, River. You say, what if something pooped or peed on it? Well, that is definitely a danger. But remember that, well, there are a few things about that. The first thing is that I could see that nothing had pooped or peed on that flower, unless it had been an insect, in which case I wouldn't have worried too much, because much of the food that we eat, of course, has been pollinated by insects and pooped and peed upon by them. So any time you go into the wild and you pick a piece of wild fruit, or you go to a tree and you pick a piece of fruit from that, something's going to have relieved itself on there, but that doesn't really harm us, you know. I'm pretty sure a lion or a leopard wouldn't have got up that high, but it is a consideration, River, and so yes, you should be very careful of that, and you should perhaps clean these things off before you eat them. But remember, River, the big thing is that when you buy a piece of fruit, for example, from the store, you know, even unless the store is a sort of very certified organic store, you can be sure that whatever you're putting in your mouth, if you don't wash that piece of fruit, is far worse than anything that we can get out here and to put in our mouths. So even if it was a bit of insect poop or pee, or maybe a bird has come past and had a bit of a peck at it, that's far better for you than some of the chemicals that we as human beings spray on our own food. So it's something to just bear in mind. But yes, you're absolutely right, you must be careful of that sort of thing. Absolutely, otherwise you can get sick. I mercifully have only been sick from food that has been, well, that I've bought mainly. I don't have a very exotic taste, so I'm quite careful about what I eat. And we all know that horrible feeling in the night when you wake up, you're just uncomfortable and you know something you've eaten ain't agreed with your body. And it's gonna come out. Now I can smell elephant, which is not surprising given that there is more elephant dung than you can shake a stick at around here. The Gallagher pan just round the corner. David, are you ready for the sight that is going to behold us? 5 Nkuhuma lionesses, 8 cubs, or... There's nothing there, is there, Dave? There's nothing at all there. It is devoid of any life. How very disappointing. I thought at least those buffalo would have hung around. Oh well. We'll have to find something else to eat here, David. There's some impala and a drongo who've just had a drink. What is that impala eating there on the right? I thought he was eating that elephant dung for a second there, but I don't think he is. They will. Just about all the grazers and browsers out here in severe drought will eat elephant dung. Them and Stef Winterboer, of course. Now, I was allowed to make that quip about Stef's balding pate, of course, because I have one myself. Those who have not got a balding pate may not make jokes about others who do. It's very non-you, David. So with your lovely, luscious, curling locks, don't ever let me hear you make a joke about a balding pate. And for those of you who are wondering, this has got nothing to do with impala. David's hair, of course, is a bit like a... I'm trying to think, Howard Stern, I suppose, would be the most accurate description of David's haircut. Right, across to Steph. And let's find out an update from him. I don't think he's got too long left before he has to go home.
Quite right, then we just got that sort of peachy sky that's come across the horizon there, and we are making our way slowly back to an area that we know won't kill us, which will be in the DRC. But we've come across one of these very special elephant midday rest stops here, and that's just in this Tamboti thicket in front of us. And let's go spend some time in this place. I love these. Williams asked the inevitable, how do I think elephant dung got into the tree? I'm going to have to confess this one because there's no other way. I kicked it there. I was seeing if we could introduce a new type of sport to our itinerary of games, and I kicked it there. Now I suppose Williams made me do something here that I'm going to have to show you as well. So this was the unfortunate, and I just launched it into the tree. That one broke a little bit, and it just got stuck. Gone out of the picture, but thank you, Viam. Let's have a look over here. This is just one of those very special spots where elephant like to spend the heat of the day. They like the cover of tambutis, and then because tambutis are quite poisonous, they are retardant to insects. So these areas are not blessedly free, but definitely have fewer elephant in than what they'd normally have. And here we can actually see the evidence of elephant that spent the afternoon here. This is very fresh urine from an elephant, and you can even see the dung, which hasn't break it open there, you can see. Definitely wet enough to get a glass and a half of juice out of it, but just have a look at how this particular dung is. A bit of water. That's just crazy. It happened today. Nice. So lunchtime today, elephant would have been standing underneath this canopy of tamboti, standing in the shade, and you can see that it's something that has been practiced here, probably for generations. That's lovely. Alright, let's carry on going. James, good evening all the way from Brighton in the UK, I think. You've just asked me if I've ever eaten a mongongo nut that's passed through an elephant. I can't say that I have, James. I've never heard of the mongongo nut at all in my life before. And I'm wondering if you're chuckling loud into your beer at the moment at the pub with all your mates after having asked me that. So no, I haven't eaten a mongongo nut that's passed through an elephant's elementary canal at all. There are a couple of seeds out here that actually need to be passed through have a look here. Talking about things that have passed through an elephant's gut. This definitely has eaten whatever came through an elephant's gut. This is what's left after a dung beetle has rolled the dung ball, laid its egg inside. The egg is hatched and the larvae has eaten the dung ball. And this was found by probably a mongoose or by a honey badger, who then bit open the side of the dung ball to eat the larvae before he came out as a full-on dung. Ate of it, but unfortunately was snatched out before its time.
My message was, Steph's frozen, I'm coming to you, you're live. I don't think Steph has actually genuinely frozen. That would not be possible on a day like today. I think his camera has frozen would be a more accurate way of describing it. When you've got to the stage of kicking a dung ball against a tree, it is evidence, as I was saying to David, that things have got a little difficult out here. And I was remembering this time last year, and it is, while it's excellent vegetation for finding things because you can see through it, the little things are more difficult to find because of course there's no moisture, so there are very few beetles and butterflies and little flowers in the ground and termites and ants and spiders and little praying mantids and various other things like that. And so one must resort to poisoning one's cameraman sometime, and also kicking elephant dung against a tree. It was a very good game that was. Hello Gracie, age 9. You say I'm very funny today, and thank you for making you laugh. Gracie, if I can just make you laugh once a day, I will consider my job well done. So I'm glad you've had a laugh. I will go home happy tonight that you have had a laugh, either at my expense or at David's expense, hopefully, or indeed just with us as we've giggled our way through this very entertaining afternoon. I was trying to think of highlights of the drive, and I think the rather nasty, facetious answer I gave about being plugged into the matrix via this wire was probably a highlight. I do apologize if you took me seriously for any second. You never know what people will believe. Rob, you say, have I improved on drawing a hippo yet? For those of you who don't know, Rob clearly was a poor victim of the TV practice show that we did last. When was it, David? It must have been just before Father's Day weekend, and I drew a hippopotamus, which I can't draw, you see, and the hippopotamus was quite the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, and I became paralytic with laughter at my own drawing skill. Rob, for your edification and great joy, I am going to find a patch of sand here, and I will demonstrate to you that my drawing skills have not improved one jot. And indeed, I have given up trying to improve my drawing skills because they have been terrible since the day I could hold a crayon. I never once completed a colouring in book, mainly because I just couldn't stay in the lines. My mother was deeply frustrated by this. And indeed, I think my father used to ask me to practice my writing when I was on holiday. Something moved in the bushes here, David. Something infinitely more interesting than my reminiscences about my handwriting. It was indeed, David, a crested francolin. There you see it there. Our cup hath 2 drops therein. Just listen to them. And it's just the little chatting that they do to each other at this time of the day. They're so sweet. And they'll go up into the trees to roost tonight. And hopefully make it through the darkness and into the light the next day. These ground birds, if you take the time to look at their plumage, they really are spectacular. The detail and the incredible way in which they are hidden amongst the leaf litter. Missing feathers there, David. It does, doesn't it? I wonder what happened there. It might be why he's going ba 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 ba. There we go. Come on, Rusty. Nearly there. Debbie in Vancouver, very good question. You say, when are the hornbills going to start to nest? And I then missed the second part of your question because I thought it was nearly finished. But basically, I think it will be very soon, and I've started to see a few of them. Did you get it? Sorry, Kirst. Try again. Oh, I see, walled up in a tree, it's such an interesting method. I agree. Right, I will explain that a little bit later. Now, David, do you see my artistic light there?
Yes.
That is my canvas, in which I am going to draw a hippopotamus. Now, when one is drawing, everybody, it is very important that you have a sharp stylus, such as this one, perfectly shaped. David, do you see the bottom of my canvas here?
I do.
One must draw an outline. One must clean out any extraneous bits and pieces. Right, now I shall start with the hippo. I shall try and draw it in relief so that you can see it from where you are. Right, so a hippo's nose starts like that, goes along to its head like that, then it has its eyes, then it has its ears, and then its body goes along like that. And you see I've run out of space here, so I'm going to have to go out the lines. And basically that's what it looks like. That's actually not too bad, really. Then it's got a mouth like that, of course. This one's got its mouth open. Then it has very big teeth, of course. Very nice. And you see the teeth, David?
Yes, Jane.
They also have whiskers like this. And off the top of the nose. Nice. And of legs, of course. We mustn't forget the legs. Sort of squarish type legs. Here we go. Last time I got shouted at because I only put 2 legs on my hippo. This one has 4. And a tail. The tail is like a paddle. There we are. And that, everybody, is how best to draw a hippopotamus. What do you think, David?
Beautiful.
It is quite astounding, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Very good. It may be better than the last one, actually. Now, going back to the hornbills and their nesting, I'm going to take you past a place where the hornbills nest. It's just up here. I'm not sure how much time we have left. Thank you. It was very lovely. Oh dear. Elephants seem to have put a plank in the road there. There's a hornbill nest just up ahead. And while we get there, let's quickly go across to Steph. He's got some impala for you.
We have got some impala actually, and it's a massive herd of impala. It's actually the herd of impala that you see from time to time on quarantine clearings. But in this particular sense, we're getting up to them and they allow us to get pretty close. And I think, let's see how close we can get. Impala don't enjoy you walking straight at them. But just to give you how big this herd is, I probably think it's in the region of about 100 impala easily. Let's see if VM can show you where they are, but they're literally everywhere. Everywhere that I can look at the moment, I'm just seeing impala in an arc, probably 160 degrees or so around us. Let's take a walk a little bit closer, just to get past the screen of bushes. What you don't want to do is give one a fright, because as you give one a fright, it will bounce around. I think are used to hearing people around our camp. It shouldn't be too difficult for us to get a little bit closer. Then see pretty much the whole herd. What's weird is they're walking away from quarantine clearings. They're not actually walking to quarantine. I can only imagine it is because the bush is so open at the moment that they feel that nothing will be able to sneak up on them. Or they're needing food, so they've gone to have a drink and they're needing to actually feed at night time to keep those energy levels up. Incredible. Right, it's getting to that time of the night where those hairs on the back of my neck are starting to prickle and stickle. And it is time that we head on back to the DRC, but we will catch up with you tomorrow. So from myself and VM, we just want to say thank you very much for joining us on the walk this afternoon. Once again, thank you for all your support. Thank you for your questions and your comments. And thank you for prematurely for joining us again tomorrow. So from myself, Steph and VM, cheers. Have a good night.
This is a very zen place to be sitting for the last part of the evening, the northeasterly breeze blowing into my right ear. Now over there is a hornbill's nest. And that hornbill's nest was occupied by, I think it was red-billed hornbills. And what they do, for those of you who don't know, is the female will go into that hole. It doesn't look like much of a hole, but she'll go in there. She'll shed all of her feathers till she's completely naked, and then she'll lay her eggs on those feathers. And while she's in there, the male will board her up. So basically he'll make her a prisoner, if you like, or with mud and feces and various other things. And then her feathers will grow while she incubates, and he will feed her through a little hole that he creates there. Then when the eggs hatch, what she will do is dig her way out. She'll have sufficient feathering back on to be able to fly. She won't have a long tail, so you can see when they come out of the nest because they have a short tail. And then male and female will board it up, and they'll feed the chicks through the sort of mud hole, or the mud casing that they will make over the hole. And that's how hornbills get on with the breeding process. So I've seen a few of them investigating holes, but we're going to see more and more of that as we go into the breeding season for most birds. Some birds, of course, do breed during the winter, vultures being a notable example. Right, we'll ease our way around home. Hello, Red. You want to know what we do after a stream? Do we have a sort of debriefing of sorts? Sometimes on Tuesdays and Fridays we have a debriefing of the week's kind of thing. So where we've made a mess, Kirsten or Louise or Jerry will make a thing, and we'll all go and watch it, and we'll shout at each other and tell each other how useless we think we are. No, it's not really like that. It's positive and negative. We don't, in the evenings we tend not to. In the mornings there is a report that's written with suggestions and comments about what was good and what was bad, and try this and don't try that again, ever, on pain of death. I get quite a few of those. And yeah, that's how it's basically done. But the feedback is really very important, because it really does help us to improve something that nobody else does. You know, it's all very well doing one show or one documentary, but to do this continuously, I think the product really has to evolve constantly, and so that feedback that we give each other is absolutely vital. Right, no, I don't see anything further in the way of predators. And I would keep looking at the Djuma Dam cam. Thank you, James Richard, very much. You say you think my hippo drawing skills have improved slightly. I think they have, and I'll tell you why I think they have. I think they've improved because this time I added a tail, and I don't think I did last time. Everything else, of course, was proportionately immaculate, but I don't think that I added a tail last time, and so the addition of the tail definitely made this a masterpiece. It is only a pity that it is on the sand, not on a piece of paper, and therefore cannot be sold for millions of dollars. One last look at quarantine to see where the lions are, or the leopards, neither of which have been confiding to me today. We might actually just drive quite quickly and have one last look at the pan. We've only got a minute left, everybody. Come with me. I just want to have one last look there, just to make sure that nothing is coming towards it. Hold on, David, don't fall off. Not at this juncture, we've only got 40 seconds left. Nearly there. Oh, 30 seconds left, everybody. While I do this, let me just say to you, thank you very much for joining us during the course of this drive, for your comments and questions. It's always a joy, especially on a quiet drive like this. Thank you, David, for your efforts. Very little thanks to Brent, Leo, Smith and Brian for their afternoon off, Wendy for braking, and of course a big thanks to Steph. Lovely to have him back on foot with the Rexon being filmed by the diminutive Viam Dorenbrach. There is nothing there at the pan. We will see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. I hope you stay safe and happy wherever you are. Bye-bye.